On this episode of Trash Talk, we sit down with American Street Fighter legend NuckleDu and discuss everything from his recent qualification to Capcom Cup 11, skipping school and traveling the country to train and compete in Street Fighter 4 starting at the age of 14, paying back his $140,000 debt to the IRS from his tournament winnings, and the gilded glitz and glamour of professional gaming. Please enjoy. NuckleDu Dang. Currently, or just recently qualified for Capcom Cup. So I know we talked about this a little bit beforehand. I reached out for you to come onto this podcast, and I didn't realize that like that day or the next day you had the most important tournament for the season for you, aside from Capcom Cup now itself. Yeah. So my bad. I wasn't trying to distract from that.
It was the day before the World War, and I'm like super locked in and super focused. So like usually when something like that is like on the horizon, there's no like day after. Like there's no plans day after. You're so focused on, it's so fixated on that day that there's literally no plans afterwards. So now after I qualify for the Cup, bro, there's just such a long to-do list because I just moved. So that like my wife said, you're not resting, bro. Like you got mad shit to do, you know. Like, so yeah, but it's cool. It's cool. I'm glad it worked out the way it did, and I'm glad to be on here too.
So all the chores and all the real life responsibilities that you said, honey, please.
Yeah,
trust me, it's all worth it. Right. Now you get to pay that debt. I see. Yeah. But yeah, leading up to that then, what were you doing anything special particularly for this tournament? Because it was so important for this qualification because this was the final World Warrior for the US East region. You and Boost are like locked into this race to qualify with a whole bunch of external factors too, because you know we'll talk about maybe Punk and Meta RD, how they're in your region, they got pulled out, but it came down to just you two basically. Were you looking for anything specific going into this event? Like, what's your preparation like for something so important like this?
So because I was so I was high on the standings, I was like 160 points and Boost was 140. Like technically, I wouldn't even face him until winners finals, and at that point I would be qualified because all I needed was 4th place. But I don't like leaving it up to circumstances like that, so I still prepared for Boost. Yeah, I trained with Yurio and a few other Ken players leading up to this, and I'm glad I did because things didn't play out. I lost a safe in top 8 winners, and that would have granted me Capcom Cup. But because I lost my teammate, Street Fighter League teammate, safe, all good. I lost to him. It turns out I had to play Boost, and yeah, it couldn't have been more poetic than that. That I play the guy that is also trying to qualify for that tournament, and yeah. It was pretty scary, man. Like Shopify, they're really supportive, but even they noticed that like I wasn't playing as much because, you know, I'm like we had a fight, you know, Hurricane Milton, ugly ass name, but yeah, we had to deal with Hurricane Milton. It was really scary being a part of a real hurricane. Like that one felt different. Like the prep for it, and when it was like on us, like it was pretty scary. So dealing with that, and I even told Dual Kevin, our Street Fighter League teammate, that. Yo, like, I'm not gonna lie, I don't have a lot of time to play leading up to Street Fighter League because I'm part of a move. Like I'm trying to move. Hurricane, you know, it sucks. So I told him like if you could like study film for these specific players for me, that'd be very helpful because like I'm still gonna try my best, but I didn't want to go in and let him know or go in and then have him find out that I didn't train as hard because that's not my intent, you know, but. Life happens, so you know, it's tough.
Right. I mean, living in Florida, that's how it's gonna be, right? Yeah, that was the first major. So, are you currently in the Tampa region,
or where
Okay, right. So, Milton really did a number on that area. So everything's safe, everything's fine with the house and your family and everything.
Yeah, everything is good. There's just a lot of tree branches fell onto our already weak foundation of our home. Thankfully, a week before Milton came, we bought another house in a much safer area, and yeah, everything's good for the most part. Most people are good, but we just lost power for like a whole week, and it makes you really grateful. Yeah, so like if you lose power for a week, it makes you not want to play. You're not even thinking about Street Fighter. You're thinking about like, oh my god, my kid. Like I'm watching my kid eat Chef Boyardee cold, and I'm like, this sucks, bro. Like I don't want her to eat that. I'm not gonna eat that shit. You know, I'm gonna eat beef jerky. I'm not gonna eat Chef Boyardee cold, but. Yeah, it just makes you really appreciate the little things we have, like power, Wi-Fi, and all that.
Oh yeah.
So I was definitely going through some other shit while
I didn't know
League and Capcom Cup. Yeah.
No, that's serious. If people haven't dealt with a natural disaster like that or just losing power, I mean, after like I think one day you're like, haha, hee hee, it's kind of like we're camping for a day. But come day two in the south, in the heat, in the humidity, suddenly you realize like this is serious. Like this is not anything to mess with. It's not a matter of trying to be comfortable. It's a matter of surviving. I mean, you're spending your day trying to find ice, trying to find supplies,
gas. And I'm sure you dealt with it, right? You lived in Florida for a long time.
Yeah, and we're in Texas now. So we recently lost power for, it wasn't a week, but it was like 3-4 days, something like that. 4 or 5 days in Texas summer. I mean,
and it sucks, right?
It sucks.
It sucks, no, I know.
Man. And you did that with a whole family, kids to take care of, a whole week. No, that's horrible. Did you get any help, any assistance during that time?
Yeah, so thankfully, when we had bought this house already, the new house, and this house had power. And I'm not trying to, like, I feel like the richer areas, their power gets, I'm not saying it's in a rich area, but it's a way nicer area from where I came from. So I think the power in the rich areas get, fixed much faster because my old house, it didn't get fixed for a whole week, but this place had power the whole time. I'm like, damn, that kind of sucks how the world works, but it is what it is.
That's literally how it works. So were you able to at least go to that house sometimes to escape the heat?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
My family mainly stayed here. We dealt with no power for 2 days, but we just couldn't do it. So I was looking up Airbnbs, but thankfully this house had power, so I just had to keep going back and forth because my dogs are still, I have 3 dogs, and they're big dogs. So I still have to go back and make the drive an hour each way to feed them. And stuff.
Oh, okay. Well, that sucks. You had to do all that, but at least you had, AC, right? Mm-hmm. It's a matter of life and death. Like, I don't think people who aren't from the South realize, like,
and it's like
you really appreciate AC
because, like, the first day of no power, the heat sucks, but you're just super bored. And you're on Twitter, you're looking at all the people tweeting about the dumb problems they're going through. I'm like, bro, I have no power or anything. And it's like, I'm just going to go to sleep. It's 7 p.m. I'm going to sleep. There's nothing to do. You're just hopeful that you wake up to AC and you don't.
Right. The next day, though, it's like survival situation after that without AC. I'm telling you. Yeah, I was camping out at a random like coffee shop, Starbucks area because they had a bunch of outlets outside. So like our mission every day was to like go through the city when we had no power and see where we can find outlets and like charge our devices. Yeah. So we're like any kind of backup batteries. We had like a chargeable sort of like a flashlight / lamp, and so we would charge that up every day, charge our phones, and then go and try to find ice.
And you guys had no power because of
every day. It wasn't even a hurricane. It was a random, I don't even know if you would call it a tornado. No, it was like a random storm system that came through and just completely wrecked the power system out here. And it wasn't even a hurricane. It was just a random Tuesday or something like that.
Yeah, I'm not trying to sound really dumb, but I've been told that Texas power grid is not the strongest or not the most
No, it's
stable.
Horrible.
Oh, it kind of sucks. And I was talking to my wife. I was like, yo, like, after this hurricane, like, where's an ideal spot to raise a family that doesn't have as much natural disasters as Florida? Because, because in Texas, you deal with what? Flooding, tornadoes, and sometimes hurricanes.
Yeah, you
the
get
West
it all.
Coast deal with fires, Midwest, tornadoes, in Florida is hurricanes. So like, where can you really go that's like avoids all of that,
You got to go to the Midwest and then freeze to death, I guess,
But they have tornadoes.
If you go north enough, I think you lose with tornadoes, but then you deal with the winters. So it's definitely a pick your own poison kind of deal.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's interesting to know that during this time you had Hurricane Milton. I didn't consider that Street Fighter League was coming up, and as well as this World Warrior qualification. So I mean, you definitely had other priorities, but it sounds like eventually you found time to start training because Boost, like he was the guy. So leading into this, you were #1 ranked. Boost was right behind you, and like the ideal scenario for him was he needed to gatekeep you from getting, I believe, top 3. I think if you cracked the top 3, top 4,
yeah.
So if you cracked top 4, mathematically, no matter what, even if he had won, it was impossible for him. Yeah. So he's hoping to meet you early in winners. I guess he would meet you in winners final. So he'd had to hope for someone else to gatekeep you in that sense.
Exactly. That's exactly what happened. I lost before winners finals to safe, and then
it
played out.
So winner semis, it's safe. And I remember watching that match live, and I'm thinking like, you know, Safe is such a troll, and one of his big recent matches was him trying to troll you, because back in the day, you used to be, you know, I think you kind of buckled down a little bit more these days in your gameplay, but you kind of used to be the troll.
Yeah, I used to do a lot back then.
I mean, before Punk was the teabag guy, it was NuckleDu with the teabags, and then the Guile glasses.
Yeah,
you know, you kind of invented or really popularized the extra troll gameplay.
I think the West Coast still doesn't like me for that glasses. It's been like 10 or 12 years, but yeah.
Right. No, because you came over to That was your first WNF, right? Yeah. You showed up and you terrorized them.
Yeah.
Yeah. For people who don't know, yeah, that was back when in Street Fighter 4 days, when NLBC and WNF were like at almost their peak at the time. I think NLBC kind of grew even more during the Street Fighter 5 era. But dude, I mean, you had no allegiance to either, right? You're Florida, you're not really New York, you're not West Coast. So you show up to WNF.
Yeah, they got it just as bad. I went over there and said NLBC is free after taking their money too.
Okay. I don't remember that one.
Coast, the East Coast got it too.
Oh, okay. You're out there taking all their money. Which one did you go to first at that time? Was it East Coast
NLBC
or
because of EMP?
Okay.
Yeah, I was exposed to some real struggle early on. I was like, damn, this is tough, boy. I'm not gonna lie. But
wow,
it allowed me to grow up fast, so I won't lie. Like, I saw a lot of shit.
So EMP actually got you out to New York at this time to train?
Yeah, to train, and I thought it was gonna be, you know, like the people at EMP are amazing. Like I'm not dogging on the players at all, but yeah, the goal was to go to New York and train with the EMP players because they're just so strong. And this is me, like I was 14 at the time, so I was young, and I looked up to these players. But boy, when I got there, man, that place was disgusting, like cockroaches just running around. It was a struggle, but character development is really important in life, I feel. And
wow.
Yeah, it opened my eyes a lot. It made me want to work harder, you know. So
you got sponsored by EMP when you're 13 years old.
I would say 14. Yeah.
14. Okay, because you got started really young in the world of Street Fighter 4, and you started like making a name for yourself at a really young age. And yeah, you were on EMP for quite some time. So they took you out to New York to stay with them at the gamer house. I forget what the house is called. They had a title for it, right?
This is called the Arc.
The Arc. Okay, the EMP Arc. You're sponsored. Are they taking you out on like, this is your summer break? Like, what's happening here? You're 13, 14 years old. Now suddenly you're from Florida. Now you're in New York at a gamer house with cockroaches everywhere, seeing how the actual pro gamers are like. The curtain was drawn back, right? Like, as you've seen these guys compete, NLBC also helped make it super public at the time. There's also all the East Coast has a really big tournament scene. At that time, when you lived further south, you couldn't see as many big events on stream, right? They existed, and like we crossed paths with the Florida tournaments. There's lots of events going on, but mostly Northeast was where you could actually see things happening online.
Yeah.
So how did you end up there? Like, what is the story of you getting there?
Well, I don't like talking about it too much because education is important, but I didn't really like school, and I knew it from the start. So I kind of like dropped out senior year. But even before that, I was 14, so I had been like a freshman in high school, and my mom and dad were going through a nasty breakup, and my dad went to Vietnam. Then my mom went to Vietnam. So I'm a 14-year-old kid with my two siblings who are under 18. And I'm not trying to get them in trouble or anything, but this is just how we grew up. And this is how I was allowed to go because I didn't have any parental guidance to tell me, like, yo, you shouldn't go to Crown Heights, New York, where it's mad dangerous, and just play video games with these guys. Like, we don't know these guys. These guys aren't vetted. But, yeah, I didn't have – and maybe thankfully so, because otherwise I wouldn't be where I am if my parents weren't – if they were around, you know, they would want me to be a doctor, engineer, or something. But because they weren't, I was able to achieve everything I have and so on. You know?
Wow, I never pieced that together because I mean I knew at the time you were traveling the country, you're part of EMP, and I've seen you on stream so many events, and I remember like I've sat next to you at a tournament, and you were a kid. Like you were literally a kid. Like I think I met you for the first time or crossed paths with you in 2011, if I remember correctly. And this was a random maybe not random. It was a Tampa Never Sleeps, or I don't know if it was under that branding at the time, but it was definitely a Tong Run tournament, I believe, out in Tampa. It wasn't at the store. It was at another venue. So I did go eventually to one at Play and Trade.
It's like a nightclub vibe, right?
That or a hangar. It's ancient history. I can't quite recall. So it was one of my first tournaments out there. And I tell this story all the time, but I love it because I remember sitting down playing casuals. I'd never really been to a Florida event outside of like the Gainesville area at UF. And then I played a few people in casuals, and then like a kid sits down next to me and starts picking one character, beats my ass, picks another character, beats my ass. And like 5 characters in, I'm like, how is this child beating me? And I hear people walking by like, oh, Du here to take our money again. Oh, Du, leave us alone. Like, stop. Like grown men saying these kind of things and passing. And then you won the tournament. And then it clicked. I was like, oh, okay. This kid is the guy to beat. I'm in college. You're clearly like middle school looking age to me, maybe high school. I couldn't tell.
Yeah, I was young. I was flimsy. I was like 70 pounds at the time. It was
So I knew you got started early, but I never really pieced together how from that point, because a few years later, then you're traveling, how that was able to happen. And so that's because basically you're on your own at this point. You're able to kind of forge your own path.
Yeah, essentially, I've been living by myself since I was like 17. I was under my brother and sister, but due to our unfortunate situation with my parents, my relationship with my brothers, he's probably going to hear this, but it's at a point of no return because of how rough it was. Our relationship back then was so rough that it just feels so weird now. And that kind of does suck, but yeah, like it is what it is. But it's tough, bro. Like having no parents, which is why with my 2 kids, I really want to be present. Like, and that's why I don't travel as much and now I'm so grateful I qualified for the cup because I could just be home. On top of me being lazy, I am a lazy bastard. I'm not gonna lie. But on top of that, I do want to be present for my family because they're the world to me.
Right. No, it's very clear that you're definitely very engaged with your family and motivated. To me, it seems like you have a sense of motivation, and I don't agree with you when you say you're lazy. Maybe there's parts of your life that you feel like maybe personally you could be more attentive to, but of all the top players I can think of, you're one of the most prolific out there. I look to you as one of like the ambassadors of what a professional Street Fighter player should be, because I feel like there's very few pros in the scene. There's full-time players. There's players who their main thing that they dedicate their time to is being a professional player. But I feel like there's not that many actual professional players.
I get what you're saying.
Right? So to me, I look at you and I'm like, yeah, NuckleDu Dang is a professional Street Fighter player because, I mean, week in, week out, you're grinding. You're playing in all the online weeklies. You're participating. And I find that really interesting. That's one thing I wanted to bring up to you. How do you feel about that approach where you're extremely public with your training regimen, with your participation? You're in every tournament. Is there a motivation behind that, like monetary practice? And how do you think about that strategy as far as being a professional player in terms of maybe hiding your tech versus being so public with it?
Yeah, I don't think it's a great strategy at all. I'm gonna keep it real. I think, so for example, there's two kinds of players to me, right? There's Punk, then there's someone like me. Punk is just naturally talented, naturally gifted. I'm not saying he doesn't work hard because he still does work hard, obviously. But he could like just casually lean back like this and just beat your ass. And I had to be super locked in. I had to be already sharp coming into the tournament. And I had to be already locked in physically and mentally. So for me to be that kind of player, I feel like I had to put in a lot of work, and which is why I play a lot of tournaments. But where that stemmed from was season 1 of Street Fighter 6. Like I knew Street Fighter 6 money-wise was going to be very lucrative because it's a brand new fighting game, and usually games when it first come out is pretty good. And I wasn't wrong. Like the pop bonuses, the matcharinos, it was just so good. And there was like 5 or 6 sometimes there was like 10 tournaments in a week, and you just had to pick and choose. Like there was one time I did a 3 tournament run in one day, and I'll never do that again because that was horrible. But yeah, that was my thinking. It wasn't necessarily to get better. It was. And also in the back of my mind, I knew the IRS was on my ass. Like I always try to put a blind eye to it or just put it in the back burner. But I didn't know how much the amount was. I really didn't. I just thought it was going to be like, okay, you made $250K from Capcom Cup. If you get 30%, it shouldn't exceed over like 80K. But boy, was I wrong because I didn't finish school. But you know what? They don't actually teach you much about, at least my time at school, they didn't teach me much about taxes, and like they weren't super big on that. So accountability is important, but school system's another topic. But yeah, so I knew in the back of my mind, like, yeah, I'm making a lot of money for streaming from these tournaments, but I knew eventually I'm going to have to be a law-abiding citizen and pay my taxes. And when I was ready to buy, when I was ready to buy a house in January and they needed my tax information, I was like, yeah, sure. And I checked the IRS.gov and it said $144,000 owed. And I saw that, I was like, I'm joking. Like, this is a joke, right? And
wow,
it wasn't. It was such a big reality check. Like, me and my wife, we were ready to buy a house, escape our horrible neighborhood, and then we just see that number, and it was like such a fucking gut punch, bro. It was horrible.
So wait, what time was that? What's the actual timeline there? When did you actually finally check this figure and see that you owed that much?
December of last year. Like, really recently, actually, December.
Oh, so this wasn't even. I did want to bring this up. I wasn't sure how much you'd want to share about this, because
I want to share about stuff like this because I know other gamers are just like me, lazy, procrastinating. Like, it's going to happen to other people. But the more we shed light about this, the better. So if you use my experience to prevent other young people from making this mistake, that'd be cool. I don't care.
Yeah, I was wondering if that's something you knew about earlier, because you were public about this when you qualified for Capcom Cup last season, because you went through the gauntlet to qualify.
Yeah.
You came so close to qualifying against Mena RD in the regional finals, last game, last round, last decision. And Mena RD was very I got to give him props there. He made some amazing last-second decisions. It seemed like you were almost a shoo-in to win in that moment. And then he ate the sonic booms to prevent the burnout and found the clutch openings, which I know it must have been like gut-wrenching for you because you got so close. Yeah. And then after that, you have to do it through the CPT Premier, which is the wild card version, right? At least the regional finals, you cut it down to the top 8. Now you're back into the shark-infested waters, and you run it all the way through. You get sent to Losers by Banana Ken. You run it all the way back. You throw his JP 30 million times in the face of Season 1 amnesia. And then you close up the set 3-0. And then in this interview, you're very emotional in that moment. You're so relieved. And then you drop this kind of bomb that
no one really knew.
I'm NuckleDu dang. I won Capcom Cup in 2016, the biggest prize pool ever in fighting at the time, and I owe the IRS $140,000 in back taxes. And there was a moment where I was like, what? I was restreaming it. I almost paused it. I was like, what did he just say?
Yeah.
Did you expect that to come out in that moment? Like, were you?
I don't ever share. I don't talk about that. Like, I don't even think my closest friends knew, and I tell them almost everything. But that's not something as a man you want to tell people that you're in debt. Like, even when I go to I stopped, but when I did go to the casino 5 times a week, you don't like to tell people about your losses. Like, oh, I lost 500 today or 400, especially your wife. But but when I won and qualified for the cup, it was just really emotional, and like, it's like, okay, you have a chance to actually win Capcom Cup again, and so do, what is it, like 48 other players? So I don't know. So something just made me want to just help people who are in my position or are going to be in my position, and hopefully don't make the same mistake, because the stress of having that much debt, bro, is not cool. Like, you turn to a lot of different outlets that are not the healthiest, and I don't want people to go through that. Like, friend or foe or stranger, it's not cool.
Right. No, that's a big thing to admit. And it definitely felt like a moment where you were just very emotional in a positive sense and wanted to share that experience, because it is something that a lot of people might not know about. And given your background and upbringing, you weren't in a position to have been given that guidance, because nobody teaches you about this tax stuff in school, right? Like, that's not even a thing.
They didn't teach me that.
They don't. Yeah. They don't. Like, it's not a thing that's taught. Maybe if you do a home ec class, maybe they'll walk through taxes, but generally that comes from guidance from other people who have been in that situation. And if you're in an environment where you're not dealing with, or you're not connected with people who've gone like this entrepreneurial route, come into large sums of money, jumping tax brackets, right? Like, that's a different life experience. And it sounds like you didn't have anyone in your corner at that time to help you through that. Is that correct?
I will say, yes, like in terms of family, but I will say Justin and I were not the closest, but just in passing, he has brought up about taxes. And I was saying, like, wait, so I had to, this is like closer to like 2015, or no, this is like closer to when, maybe 2016, 2017, but I just brushed it off. He was like, yeah, you gotta pay these taxes. I was like, wait, so this money that I just won, do I get any of this back? And he was like, no, you just gotta hold that. I was like, what the hell? I'm not doing that. And I just kind of brushed it off, and I just thought it would go away, but it didn't. But yeah, he did try to warn me about it because, he's doing the same thing we're doing. Right. He pays taxes like a law-abiding citizen, so he was just trying to help out too.
Yeah, so it's definitely something to look into. I mean, it's something that I look into more and more these days as I've gotten more into content creation. Like when you start making money from non-W-2, like irregular employment where it's automatically taken out of your paycheck, unfortunately, in the American tax system, it's up to you to do your research and figure out. They're like, we know how much you owe, but we're not going to tell you.
Yeah, isn't that annoying, bro? Like, we got to go
it's
on
a
our
game.
way. Yeah, I hate it.
I mean, I feel like part of it is because they want, unfortunately, these unfortunate situations to happen so they can start charging, the interest, and they actually make more money off you.
Is the amount I owed, the interest was $900 a month. So like, I would make a $500 payment, but then the next month, $900 more applied to it. And I was looking at this, I was like, yo, what the hell are we gonna do here? And thankfully for my wife, she's the brains of this marriage. I'm not saying she wears the pants. She is the brains. Okay, so she was like, it doesn't make sense to save money right now. It makes sense to tackle this irresponsible as debt. She didn't say all that, but it makes sense to tackle this debt head on. And yeah, I can confidently say we paid that off within a few months, and that's due to Street Fighter 6. Great for Street Fighter 6 and my crack work ethic in season 1 where I was just doing 3 tournament runs. Right. And because of I'm really grateful and I'm appreciative that I did work really hard season 1 because I don't think I would.
That's amazing to hear.
Yeah.
No, that's amazing to hear. I was wondering if that was successful because like I brought up before, you are on every tournament. And at this time, especially during the release, I mean, these tournaments are cracking sometimes 500 plus entrants. Like TNS was a major, bigger than what anything we would have had in Street Fighter 5 or Street Fighter 4 level regional. You look at some CPT events, even from like when the CPT was in full string, just raw in terms of raw number of entrants, these online tournaments were bigger, right? 100%. And then the prize pools, I mean, it was kind of random, right, in the sense that it's usually done through match arenas or something, but sometimes they're in the thousands, right, for a weekly tournament, and then you have multiple of these every week. So you for sure saw this as an opportunity to like, hey, if I go all in, I can make significant income from this. Yeah, like that was 100%. A plan in your mind, but it wasn't okay. Like, but subconsciously, I knew I was just putting it into a bag that I had to give away to the Uncle Sam. But I didn't think about it. But something in my brain told me like, yo, like this is just temporary. And I was right. The fucking IRS got me. So you knew, even before you knew the official figure of how much you owed, you were saying that you were not going to spend it. Like you understood that this was to be reserved in your gut for something important. Yeah, 100%. And when you have kids, when you have kids and you want something, this is part of growing up, I guess, if you want something shiny and expensive. Like back then, I would just buy it, but now you just look at it and you're like, damn, that'd be cool. And then you just walk away. But it's part of growing up, right? Like, I used to get a new phone like twice a year, but I've been on the same phone for a minute, and I've been on the checkout page in Samsung. I'll be like, man, that's expensive. So, and I told myself, like, if I make Capcom Cup this year, I'll get myself a new phone, and I'm still with my same phone. Because that's great. Priorities, bro. I love that. Yeah, because that's one thing I've always noticed about the consumerist mentality is like the need to upgrade a phone. I can't believe you did 2 phones a year. Yeah, like if they get like a little scratch, I'm like, damn, I need a new phone. Or maybe the internet's a little slow. I'll be like, I think it's time to upgrade a new phone. Or maybe the Wi-Fi is down. Yeah. Yeah, so like if there's a good trade-in deal, I'll be like, damn, that's such a good deal. It's just like it's more value if I don't do it, So, or if I do it. So but they got you. Yeah, I've thankfully calmed down with kids. Right, sale logic. Yeah, it's like, oh, I'm saving 50%. No, you're spending X amount that you didn't need to spend. Yeah. No, it's awesome to see that worked out. I'm glad you weren't spending all the income at that time.
Yeah,
but I'm kind of curious.
Okay.
No, you go.
Yeah, I'm also getting a lot of haters now because I'm more vocal. I don't know if it comes with age, but I'm just tired of these fucking kids lately, bro. Like, just talking shit and just like I don't know. But yeah, so I'm getting a lot of trolls and haters. Like, every time I win, especially if I beat a Dominican player, they're just always there talking shit. And they're like, yeah, you got this dub, but you still got the IRS. Like, pay off your IRS. And then I'm just sitting there, I'm thinking like, man, I paid my shit off.
Wow.
You know, like I'm just quietly sitting there, but.
Okay.
Yeah, it's cool. It's cool. But I'm not going to go out on my way and be like, oh, actually, I paid off I'm not going to do all that. But yeah, I am dealing with a lot more trolls and haters because I'm more vocal these days. And I do think
that's how it works.
It's my age. I'm just tired of these kids, bro.
That's part of it. I mean, if you're vocal on the internet, you get feedback, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
and no matter how pleasant or mass appealing your message is, or whatever voice you put out there, there's still always going to be a percentage of it that's just negative for negativity sense. And then if you have any sort of actual opinion that is not completely down the middle, you're going to expect more of it. And it's funny you say that because I literally just looked at your Capcom Cup qualification video, and then one of the comments was like a puke emoji. Oh yeah, that's
my biggest hater. I would say he's from Dominican Republic. I could win or lose versus a DR player. He's going to be there. Yeah.
At first I was like, oh yeah, sick Guile gameplay, right? I was like trying to understand like the perspective he came from. But you can click on the profile and it shows you like 3 comment history. It doesn't show you all of them, but anyone on YouTube, it's a feature they had. You can click on them to like try to get some context. And I realized I was like, oh, this guy is like your biggest hater, aka your biggest fan.
Yeah,
you know.
And I also learned to cope with it because I've always been critical of myself, but when I saw Mr. Beast put a video of him curing like 1,000 people blindness, and I saw haters, I was like, all right, you can't please anybody because this motherfucker is curing 1,000 people's blindness, and he still has haters from that particular video. All right, whatever. I'm not trying to please anybody no more. You know what I mean?
That's how it works. Yeah. I mean, maybe I'm one of those haters from Mr. Beast. I don't know. But it's true. Even if you go to the most altruistic version of it, no matter what you do, even if it really is true to the core altruism and like you're truly just trying to help people, it's just how it is. And I mean, you're being public here about it. It'll attract haters. I put stuff out all the time. It attracts haters. It's part of it. But I think at the core, as long as you truly believe that you're doing something of value, then I think it's easier to cope with. And so like anytime I feel like someone is like negatively affecting me on the internet, I try to like filter it. Like, is this something that actually is valuable criticism to something that affects my values? Or is it just random hater talk, right? And every once in a while, sometimes there'll be like actual constructive feedback I can take from something. Okay. But, you know, it does exist where it's just random hating.
Do you get a lot of haters, though? I feel like you would be safe from that because you don't really... really?
Oh yeah, dude. Yeah.
Okay, that just proves my point. You can't please everybody, bro, because you're one of the least problematic people in the FGC. You just try to help people
all the time.
Yeah, it's buns.
Yeah, that's something that I realize people don't get when they see like the outside version of what you put out. Because even Rob told me the same thing. I remember me and Rob had a conversation because Rob is a lot more, I don't don't want to say controversial, but he's stubborn, hard-headed, speaks his mind, he's loud and all that. 100%. So he obviously attracts a lot of negative attention towards himself as well. And then he's like, oh, Brian, you don't understand, you have no haters. And I'm like, dude, I have any kind of hater you have. I have like 30 of them who follow all my videos. But I've managed to squash it with more positive reception on top of it. So usually from the outside, that's what you see. But I have all kinds of dedicated haters. You know them on your YouTube comments. I'll see them, hundreds of comments on my videos, and they're all weird. they're all some kind of weird backhanded insults. Like they always exist.
YouTube comments are the most weird compared to Twitch. Do you notice that, or is it? Do you think it's a generalization? I think YouTube comments
it's very true.
The strangest. Like they'll find the weirdest argument and just die by that argument. It's so weird.
Right. I think you're starting to see it, like, because I mean, I've been more in this content creation path for a long time. We're really digging into it, and so the more you dig into it, the more you notice those patterns. YouTube, it's a faceless interaction. I almost want to say, in the sense that there's no feedback immediately. They're not talking to you. They're not interacting with you. So the people interacting are much more likely to feel power in their anonymous approach there, so that they're able to leave meaner comments. Like they're
That's a
further
good point.
separated from you.
Yeah,
but
because
in
in the Twitch
Twitch
stream, yeah, you could have a mod just banning someone for saying something silly. Yeah, that's actually a good point. They're just throwing comments, nasty comments at the wall.
Yeah.
YouTube. Yeah.
Or you can clap back. I mean, you're there. Like they have to have. It's not that much more ballsy, but they have to be slightly more ballsy to say shit in a Twitch chat. Like not that. I don't want to give them the trolls that much credit, but it's a little bit more than YouTube comments at least.
I get what you're saying.
Yeah, so it's something just that you have to cope with time. And it's funny that you mentioned that because, I mean, if you want to talk about it, I know that stems, of course, from you calling out Caba, right?
Yeah.
So did you expect that to kind of blow up to that degree when you decided to call out Caba for the money match for Best Guile?
Yeah, I knew what I was doing because, bro, I was in Milwaukee. With all due respect, that's where you're from. That place sucks.
It's where I lived. That's not where I'm from.
Oh, okay, my bad. That place sucks. Okay, let me not be too clear. I'm gonna get more haters. But the highlight of that weekend was just going to the casino with K-Rad. That was fun. But
it's not a bad casino. Potawatomi.
Yeah, I didn't want to butcher the name. It was like a Native American name, right?
Yeah, Potawatomi. Cool. Yeah, I lived, kind of around the corner from there. I lived down the street from the venue during Street Fighter V era, where the actual tournament was.
Yeah. No, the tournament itself was cool, but the place, the food, not my cup of tea. But yeah, I was bored. I was bored in Milwaukee, bro. So I lost. So to give a little bit of context, like I've been killing Caba all year. Season 1, beginning of Season 2. Guile, Cammy, DJ, it don't matter. Like I would just murder him, and I wouldn't even bat an eye. Like GG's Caba, good shit. Like, I'll beat you again. It's all good. But then, bro, he beats me at this time. Like, I'm not making excuses, right? Like, it's always the other person playing better. But before I went to that match, I was playing games with Lex and another fellow Guile player that I usually destroy. And he was taking games off me. I was like, damn, I'm not feeling too good. And I had a feeling it was going to go south. And Lex kept telling me, like, yo, just pick Guile. You'll smoke him. You'll pick Guile. But, like, if I'm not feeling good as a player, Cammy's a better choice. Cammy or DJ, because Guile, you can't have a bad day and play Guile, in my opinion, because your zoning has to be on point, your neutral has to be on point. But with Cammy, you can still play bad and still maul someone in the corner and just guess right, you know?
Okay.
So that's why I went Cammy the first time, lost, and then I picked Guile, and then I lost, and then he popped off, and he said, #1 Guile. He was talking to Louisman, I think. He was like, #1 Guile. And I sat there and I was like, what? How does that make you the #1 Guile? I never claimed that I was the #1 Guile, but how could beating me one game with Guile solidify you as the #1 Guile? So I had that salty walk to my hotel, and I was staying with Shine. I was like, yo, Shine, can you believe what this motherfucker just said to me? And then I was like, yo, Shine, I'm about to tweet this. What do you think? And then there was the tweet that I tweeted. Mm-hmm. He was like, that's going to cause a lot of stir, bro. I'm like, I don't care, bro. I'm in Milwaukee, bro. What else am I going to do? So I tweeted. And yeah, to set the record straight, if he would have accepted, that's cool. But I assumed there was going to be like Mana or Blink's money. Like, Caba is still my guy. Like, I genuinely don't want to take 10 grand with him. But I know he has backing. That's why I tagged Mena in that tweet. Yeah, I'm not trying to take money from Caba. Like, that's still my guy. I still got love for Caba. I still got love for DR. But EDC Orlando is the same weekend as Blink. And I thought about that. I was like, okay, I'll do this money match, and I'll even go to DR and play you just so you don't have any logistics to worry about, Caba. Just make it worthwhile my time. I'm not skipping, because my wife hates when I rave music festival. I don't go for the women, I go for the music. Just for the music and to have a good time.
Just to clarify. Just to clarify.
And, I used to go once or twice a month, but now I've been limited to twice a year. Mm-hmm. And I'm not skipping EDC, the one break I have, to go to all the way to DR. I'd rather just enjoy myself. But if it was worthwhile my time, I feel like 10K would be that amount.
Okay. Yeah, okay, so it's still on the table. I wasn't sure if that kind of completely went up in smoke.
I think he said he doesn't want to do it. He said he wants to focus on the cup. Yeah, he said, he wants to focus on the cup instead of just one opponent, which is respectable. It's fine.
Right. I mean, that's a reasonable conclusion to this, which felt like a little kind of random peep to start off, because, I mean, I'll respect to both you and Caba. I'm also thinking, like, where's Higuchi in this conversation? Like the weird part about it to me, there's like a third player in this running for a potential best guy on the planet right now, and then like just completely left out of the conversation.
Yeah.
So it feels a random call out to make, like for Caba to say.
But if you ever looked at my previous messages or even what I've said, I've never said I'm the best guy. I've never said that. Even in Street Fighter 5, Street Fighter 4, I've never claimed to be the best guy on 4. I never claimed to be the best at Capri. And in Street Fighter 5, when I was considered the best Guile or Mika at the time, I still never claimed it because I don't think it's important. Nor is it even easy to prove, bro. It's like the pizza spot claiming to have the best pizza. Like, you can't prove that, you know? So, like, and you could with results, but it's not everything as well. And it's not important to me because, like, for example, I think Fudo was the best Mika in Street Fighter 5 Season 1, but I still won the tournament with Mika. You know what I mean? Like, but Fudo was in top 8, but, like, what does being the best of a certain character prove? That's just all ego. Because if you don't win the tournament, ain't nobody care. I don't care. You know what I mean? Like, so I'd rather just be a better player. And I've always viewed these characters as tools. Like, maybe Guile has like a slight, like, I have a slight significance to him. Not to him, but you know what I mean? Like, he's more than just a tool to me. But every other character is just like a tool. And I have I don't really care about all that.
Right. Yeah, you've always been a player to actually play multiple characters. So even though, obviously, you and Guile are synonymous at this point, you've been playing Guile at a top level and are in the conversation for best Guile, even though I agree with your point entirely about characters being tools. You've been in that conversation for a long time, so people associate you like with that. But it's interesting to hear your perspective on that, because there is like two sort of camps with that sort of thought, like people who want to be the best with a character versus people who are solely focused on a path to victory by any means necessary, right? Like, characters are tools, and you might gravitate towards one character because it fits your play style, and therefore it's the best chance you have at winning, or you have more fun with them, so you're more motivated to put in the time to get that good, to get the job done. But at the end of the day, it's not about being the best with X, Y, or Z character. It's about getting the W in tournament. And I think you proved that that's your mindset, because, I mean, like, even your last qualification, you did it with Cammy in the end, right? Like, over Banana Ken in 2023. And even in the past, in Street Fighter 4, you played a ton of characters. You played a lot of Ibuki. You played a lot of Akuma in Street Fighter 4. So that was never really... Like,
the whole argument with me and Caba, Capcom knows what they're doing, but we randomly had to play first round Bandits and Shopify. I was like, oh, that's cute. But I wanted to do Guile Mirror, but end of the day, the team is more important. And I just went with Cammy and beat him. You know, so it's like, even when there's that much pride on the line, the win trumps everything else. Like, I'm 8 days away from my family, bro. I'm not going to fucking go home and tell my wife, I lost the Guile Mirror. But no, I'm going to tell her, it's your ego
made you pick the suboptimal choice. So you feel Cammy is the optimal choice in the matchup versus Caba and Guile.
Cammy does really well versus Guile. Yeah.
Right.
Another good example of this, I'm sure you can find many more examples, Brian, but like Punk, I don't think is the best Cammy. I think Akira is the best Cammy. His reactions is amazing, and he's optimal, has all the setups. So it really just depends on what you value as what makes the attributes of a best character user, you know? Because Punk is clearly the best Cammy user, but Akira has all the tech, has all the knowledge, you know, all that. So it's really what you value, I think.
Yeah. You see those conversations a lot. Like, there's always a debate of like, oh, even though X, Y, or Z player is winning the most with this character, they're not the best with that character. Exactly. Here's that random tech monster that I watch stream from their room, and they do way more optimal conversions and setups. But then at the end of the day, like, their decision making is like not as good, or something critical is missing from the equation. They choke. Whereas generally, I think throughout all of, at least I will speak for, you know, Street Fighter 4 and beyond history, the best players with the most results aren't the ones that are hitting the most optimal combos every single time and have the most advanced tech. They're generally the players that figure out what to min-max and focus on and avoid mistakes. Because I feel like a lot of times the character specialists, they focus on the minutia, the details, and they end up overextending or doing something that's a little bit too beyond the reach of the moment. They drop a combo, and then everything just falls apart.
Yeah, a good example of that is Sako at Evo. He's known as the execution guy, which is he's amazing. But against Shine, he had the game-winning combo, but instead of going for a tournament combo, he just He dropped the combo, then Shine was mashing DP, and then Shine won the turn. No, he won the match. He won the. And then now Shock out the turn.
Which Evo was this? Was this in Street Fighter 5?
Street Fighter 5, yeah.
Was it 2018?
I don't remember. I know Shine.
It
was on stream.
Okay, that might have been 2018 because Shine went on like a really deep run.
He had a good run.
He went to losers early and then beat like tons of international top players.
Yeah.
And like besides the Sokka one, I think that was all off stream.
Yeah.
That's the thing I think about Shine. I'm like, man, like Shine has beaten your favorite player at some point, but you probably never knew. You know, he's one of those guys who doesn't have that many public like big wins. But in losers bracket, he's beating like all these international players.
He's quiet about it. He's not going to tweet about it and show you a video or just even tweet that, hey, I beat so-and-so. He's not going to do that. He's just, if he didn't win the tournament, he doesn't feel good, you know? So it's understandable.
Yeah, but I think he should.
Probably, yeah, because I think more people need to see how good Shine is because I think Shine's pretty good.
In general, I have that philosophy about being a player is that you have to be your own like ambassador and brand manager. And I agree with like not being cocky. Like, it's a little corny to like brag about beating X, Y, or Z player. There's a proper way to do it to like be proud of your win without being like, oh, I'm better than this guy that I beat one time and I never will beat again. You know what I mean? Like there's a difference. You know what I mean? You can be like, wow, I can't believe I finally got a win over X, Y, or Z player. Happen to be at this part of the bracket. It's respectful. It acknowledges their greatness, but it brings into the conversation that you are among that tier of player. And I think that's important to do because you have to build your awareness. Like you have to do something to promote yourself unless you're just winning every tournament, which is obviously that's the best promotion. It's just winning. But I think too many players kind of fall right below that and they don't build their brand and they don't build that awareness, which I think prevents them from getting opportunities in the end. So I don't think you've ever had that problem.
Well, lately I have. Like lately, I think confidence is so important in the game like Street Fighter 6 because like things can flip so fast off of just like a perfect parry. I think you just lose the whole match. Like you need to keep your composure, and I think confidence is really important in this game because like there are situations I'm sure you know where instead of wake up DP, you have to wake up level 1. It puts you in a much better position meter wise and resource wise. And you know that's what Shopify was telling me. They actually like it's funny to bring up, but like there was one time I lost a punk, right? Then my manager was like, "Yo, why'd you do this?" And I was like, "This guy really just." The guy that doesn't play Street Fighter is asking me why I did this. And I looked at the video and I was like, fuck, why did I do that? And I eventually told him, I was like, yo, you were kind of right. But I was still annoyed. But yeah, they were actually pretty good at like, because like they know my strengths and weaknesses. So they were telling me like, yo, like when you play kind of cocky and not so scared and reserved, like you play amazing. And I kind of felt that at the last World Warrior qualification because I was playing scared the whole time. So, like, my first match was a 1600 MR guy from Atlanta, with all due respect. 1600 MR, and he smoked me 2 rounds straight, my Guile. And I let out a deep breath, and I was like, bro, there's no way I'm about to go. I'm about to lose my first game. And I switched to Cammy. I mauled him. But, like, the whole way, I was just nervous the whole time until I finally beat Boost, and I qualified. And then I got my run back against Safe because Safe was the one that sent me to losers, right? So I finally got my run back with Safe, and bro, I was talking shit the whole time, like just talking. Like every time I grabbed him, I would just say something, and I was like, "Yo, I'm playing actually pretty good." And then the whole term, I was just playing really confident and kind of cocky and just running my plays. And it makes me remember 2016, like when I won Capcom Cup, and all these interviews, I kept saying the same thing, like confidence is key, confidence is key. And yeah, it reminds me of like my younger self. Like it's almost like a time capsule, but like I lose that confidence because I don't know, maybe with age you just see so much more failure than success. So like you're reminded like, yo, maybe this wake up DP is not going to work because you've seen it not play out so many times. But with a younger self, you don't think about that. You just think about the positives. And you don't got the mortgage, you don't got the kids. But now, yeah, that's probably my biggest struggle right now is trying to play with a free mindset and not having any weight of, oh, my kids got school the next day or they got to eat. You know what I mean? It's really hard.
Right.
And I would love to talk to Bonchan or other fathers and see how they're doing because I know it's affecting them, bro. There's no way you're playing a game as volatile and guessy as Street Fighter 6 and you're not thinking about those decisions unless they're really good at, you know, internalizing that somewhere else and just purely focusing on the match. But for me, that's been my biggest struggle, and I've been very vocal about it with my team, and they've been trying to help out, and it's hard.
No, that's great that they're helping, because I mean the stakes are just they're higher, right? Like, I mean, when you're that young and you had nothing to lose, it seems like. I mean, you basically were left on your own to figure out your way through this world at a super young age.
Yeah, life was like shit, you know. There's not much else to lose.
It seemed like you kind of found something to gravitate towards where you were finding success immediately, almost. I mean, I know it might be trite. I have to read the message. I think you might know what this is. Let me know if you know what this is.
Yeah.
I'm gonna bring up a quote here. I really want this stick because I haven't been able to get the kind of money to come close to buying a standard stick. My family is very poor and can't afford a stick at all. The only thing I have been using for a year was a PS3 pad. So the message goes on where you say, I would really like to join Evo 2011. I'm in a really aggressive Guile. People saying I'm the top Guile on PSN, which I hope is true. Smiley face. Also, goodness. This year, Christmas won't be any fun. Not a lot of any presents at all because my family is all broken up and we are all separated across the United States.
Sheesh.
And so I'm guessing you recognize this message, but this is NuckleDu Dang under his NuckleDu name on Eventhubs.com, November 22nd, 2010, 12:24 p.m. on a contest to win a custom stick from Shoutouts.
Bruh, I would love to give that dude at that moment a hug, bruh. That's so sad.
It almost makes me want to tear up reading it, right? Like, this is such an earnest and honest beginning where at this time, you know, you're seeing other people living this dream, which it sounds like you might have not have realized the reality of the dream based on your experience with EMP. But at this time, you're watching professional play, like people who seem like they're making a living playing gaming, and based on your situation, you're not able to really advance in that career because, I mean, you don't have the funds right now to get to where you want to go. You can't get to Evo to compete. How was it like at that time? Like, what were you feeling at that time grinding Street Fighter 4 and finding a little bit of success in something at such a young age?
Yeah, I wasn't really grinding Street Fighter to know I was going to make a living off of it. It was more so like just something to do to not, like, you know, like wonder where my mom is or wonder where my dad is. So it was like a really good distraction. And like I did skip school. So there was this one school year, 180 school days in a year. There was one school year I missed 105 days of school. And I wasn't traveling. I wasn't on vacation. I was just I was just at home, or I would just walk around the hallways, or so every time I showed up in school, all the kids would be like, "Yo, where have you been?" You know. But I don't think I'm a dumb guy at all. Like when I do the work, it's not hard, but it's a lot of memorization. But I don't like how standardized tests are. Like I just think it just kills the creativity in a lot of young people, and it just. I don't know. It doesn't. I never liked the concept of school, and it felt really sheep mentality. But at the same time, you know, my wife, she succeeded through school. I'm not dogging on anyone's route. It's just I knew that I didn't want to go that route, and to say confidently, I knew I wanted to do professional game would be a lie as well because I didn't know I wanted to do this. So yeah, it was. But yeah, to go back, it was more so a distraction. I didn't really know what I wanted to do, and then when I went to the locals, it wasn't the betterment of my gameplay to further my esports career. It was more so I could win $200 and get a nice meal at Cracker Barrel instead of eating Banquet. You know, Banquet? That was
the frozen meal.
That was my go-to, like breakfast, lunch, dinner. Sometimes I'll mix it up with a hot pocket in the morning, but usually it was Banquet the whole week. So if I did win a tournament, I would usually go somewhere like an Applebee's or Chili's.
Right, eating good.
Yeah.
So when did you start finding the locals? So at this time, this is late 2010. Did you know about offline tournaments in your region to start making some cash, or was that?
Yeah,
by 2011 for sure. You were going to tournaments, but in 2010 were you?
No. 2011. Yeah, 2011. I went to a few tournaments. I think I won my first one, just like a small local. Won like I don't know $100, but there was this one TNS. I think the one you're talking about. Where I won like $300. I was like, oh wow, this is actually pretty good. For me, it was pretty good because, you know, like even though my parents weren't around, the benefits were still there in terms of Section 8 housing and food stamps. So So yeah, I still had that, but ultimately with food stamps, we weren't limited. I mean, we were limited to so much because there was 3 kids. There was my brother, sister, and myself. So we felt it was the best to just do TV dinners and stuff. So yeah, the $300 from winning these tournaments, I felt rich. Like I genuinely felt like I was doing really good, but I was young.
I mean, no, comparatively, right? You having suddenly a source of income, right? You have some independence in that moment where it seems like at that whole time you didn't have any direction or any way to really advance what you're doing at the time. School wasn't for you. It wasn't clicking. You didn't have parental guidance maybe to guide you through school to say there's a light at the end of the tunnel here. And then you found an avenue. And then, you discovered the community online through Eventhubs, it looks like. I mean, I saw a few of your other comments about you're also protecting Guile up from people calling Guile lame. It's amazing. Yeah, I really, people dog on Eventhubs for the way they do generate revenue these days in their business model. But I will always respect Eventhubs for being kind of a time capsule for our era of like coming up in the FGC. Because it really preserved a lot of history, like a lot of the results and things. I was digging through all your tournament results to try to find like the earliest tournament possible that you're participating in. Nowhere else on the internet is it preserved besides Eventhubs.
Yeah,
maybe YouTube.
It used to be the hub, bro. It used to be the spot where everyone went to look at tournaments and like tournament results, and even results that you didn't even care for. Like my favorite thing was going on Evo, like Eventhubs, and just checking Evo, Marvel results, or I thought that was the coolest thing, and Eventhubs was the place for that.
Yeah, it gave you context. It let you kind of know who's who in the scene, and you can actually see trends over time if you paid attention enough to it. And it even had the comment section, which people actually participated in. Like that was before Twitter. I guess there was you can.
okay.
Yeah, did you use that at all? That was before my time. I feel like that was pre-09er sort of.
Yeah, I was an Eventhubs kind of guy.
Yeah, exactly. Me too. Yeah, I was using Eventhubs, and yeah, you had some comments on there like, "Wow, have you guys never seen an aggressive Guile?" Like people were dissing lame zoning Guile. And you're like, "Yeah, we rushed down over here." So that was pretty cool to see. But you were getting to the tournament scene heavy after this time because I mean, the earliest footage I could find when doing some research for this was I found you versus Jabali and you versus NuckleDu, and that's March 2012 from a Florida local, and then CEO 2012 you went up against CJ Truth, and you guys were just kids, like children, and it just took me back because I remember CJ Truth, I think he's like a year or so older than you, isn't he? Or is he younger?
He's like 2 years younger.
2 years younger. Wow. Yeah. Okay. Because in that time in Florida, especially 2013 and beyond, I would say 2012, and then I guess starting in 2012, you two were running Florida tournaments.
Yeah.
The kids were running the tournaments, so that's the time I started going to more locals as well. And I would show up, and it would basically be you and CJ in grand finals, and then maybe like Flash Metroid or like Tampa Bison top 4, and the rest of us fighting for like 5th. That was kind of the lay of the land. And was that an era where you were starting to really earn like your living at this point as a young professional gamer?
Yeah, I remember this vividly because CJ was always my rival in the gaming sense, and I would always have to worry about playing him because he was amazing, and like we would always go back and forth. I think I've lost to you a few times too in Street Fighter 4.
Only once.
The one time my family came out to watch me, you beat me and sent me home. I was like, well, that sucks. I don't know what else to do, so I guess we're just gonna go home. But that's another day. But
no, you won that tournament. Maybe I beat you another time. I don't remember.
I lost to you and Taj. I remember, bro. My family only came out once. I remember. I might remember that one.
I mean, I vividly remember the one time I beat you because you had already beaten me a bunch of times, and this was 2013 or 2014, maybe. So like, you were starting to actually get results on a nationwide scale. Like you had been to grand finals of like some NECs and stuff like that, like on big streams. So you weren't just, oh, this random kid I see at this tournament. It was like, oh, like that's NuckleDu, that's the guy to beat, right? Yeah. Like, and I remember I finally beat you in a set, and then I go to losers because Psycho beat me in the ROG mirror because he always beat me in the ROG mirror.
I remember that.
Because there was like 15 ROGs in Florida at the time, including Jabali, and Psycho always beat me. I went to losers, and then you eliminated me with Akuma. V-Trigger to Akuma.
Oh, so I'm thinking about another tournament then.
I don't remember ever beating you where you lost a tournament.
I promise you'd have.
Oh, I don't remember this. I just remember the one where I finally beat you.
Rapidly, though. I'm not gonna lie, Brian. But yeah, you beat me more than once. But
well, thank you. You're making me look good here. I thought it was only one time.
No, you're
all right.
Good for it. Was it you that beat K-Brad as well? Like shortly after he beat Infiltration?
Yeah, CEO 2013. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that was like my peak. That was my peak result. It was a top 32 at CEO, and then right after that, I had to play Flash Metroid. So, and he always beat me. Yeah, that was like.
Have you ever lost to Jabali?
Yeah, that tournament, the first tournament I met you at, I played Jabali on stream for the first time, and he beat me.
It doesn't feel good, huh?
No, actually, he beat me one more time after that, and then he did.
It's okay, bro.
No, he hit me with the Caba. He beat me later on once I started actually doing good at the. No, he. That's also the Caba. He beat me later on once I finally started actually competing heavily in the Florida scene. And he popped off, and he was like, "There's only one Balrog in Florida." And I was like, "Dude, what?"
Oh, I see what you're saying. The combo, okay.
Yeah, and it's funny because at that time, Psycho was beating both of us.
Oh,
so I was like,
okay.
I was like, "Why are you popping off on me? Like, I don't."
Yeah.
Like, I'm paying your venue fees here, man. I'm like, come on, be nice.
Yeah, no, it didn't feel good losing to Drill because on surface level, it didn't seem like he was good, but. He knew the game enough, and fundamentally he was aight, and he would beat a lot of the new players, myself included. When I was new, I couldn't beat him. It was so annoying because his trolly face just pissed me off so much. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about, right?
Of course. Yeah. I mean,
the
Jebaited, that's ancient history.
To CJ, yeah, me and him are really like pretty good friends now, but coming up, it was hard to separate like rivalry, someone that's taking your money away from you, and friend. So like for the longest time, me and CJ, we weren't friends. We didn't hate each other, but I genuinely didn't believe like he was a friend because he was taking money from by my locals, and stuff like that. So like on top of that, there's like a weird like aura when we're around because technically you're not supposed to be friends. I had a weird mentality, I guess, but now we're really cool and like. But that's another thing too. Shine and Punk, they're like my best friends. And for World Warrior, bro, like after I beat Boost and qualified, I technically had nothing to gain, but I really needed my safe run back. Like I really needed that because I didn't like how he did me. Like he made my life so much harder. He beat me. And then on top of that, I didn't want to qualify the tournament from the tournament, and I didn't win. That looks really weak, So I had to play Shine, and I had to beat him. And normally it's fine, but because I beat Shine, he is now in the losers bracket of top 8 instead of the winner side. Right, and that sucks. Like the night of the World War that I qualified, I remember like I was just laying down on the floor, just looking at the sky, like damn, bro. Like I wonder how Shine is doing. I wonder how Boost is doing, especially. It sucks, man. It sucks to have some form of humanity in this because at the end of the day, it is a 1v1, and I can't even say that other people are in the same boat of thinking the same boat of empathy as I have for this. But it definitely keeps me up at night, bro. Like having friends in the FGC. It could suck because you're supposed to just like, you shouldn't be thinking about this. But during my World Warrior match with Shine, I'm like, damn, bro, like, I wonder if he's going to drop in the losers. But I genuinely don't have it in me to throw ever. Like, you can ask any player if I've ever split with them. And it was rampant back in when we were coming up, right, Brian? Like, pot splitting was huge. And yeah, I never did it ever. Like, there was this one NLBC, like, I was in losers finals with this EMP player. And Chris G was waiting in winners, in grand finals winners. And then he shakes my hand before the match starts. And he was like, just let me win and I'll give you the money so I could beat Chris. And I was like, what the fuck? Like, why would I do that? I came from Florida to New York. You want me to just lose on purpose? So I killed this player. I smoked him. And then I 6-0 Chris G. I was pissed, bro. Like, why would I? But everyone's circumstance is different. Like some people really, really need the money. Including myself. But like, I just don't have it in me to lose on purpose. Like, I genuinely don't. Even if you're my friend, you could be my wife, I'll smoke you. Like, for example, yesterday was the local, and Punk brought his girlfriend, and we had to play. I mauled her 3-0, no round brown. She was salty. I was like, yeah, good games.
I mean, you got to do what you got to do. And that's important, though, that's collusion, right? If you don't actually play to win, it's collusion, and that harms the integrity of the scene. So
exactly,
I would say to calm your own concerns, you were doing what's best, not just for yourself, but also your opponents, your friends, and the scene, right? If match fixing becomes a thing, it it crumbles the foundation of what this is all built on. So the whole thing collapses, right? So I hope that makes you feel a little bit better. But I understand the concern, because it sounds like, you yourself were in a position where this wasn't just a hobby. This wasn't just a game. This is, am I going to eat banquet or be able to go to Cracker Barrel and get a warm meal, right?
Yeah.
Like, you've lived that difference, so you understand how deep that loss can cut in that moment.
Yeah.
So I definitely can understand where you're coming from, but I think that's why it's so important for formats to help spread out like the reward and to make everything not just such do or die.
Yeah.
You can't have people having these doubts of like, wow, I'm taking the food out of someone else's mouth, right? Like, there's a difference between winning for yourself and like just making someone else's life worse, right?
Yeah,
and formats have to consider that.
Yeah, because when Punk won Evo, he beat Big Bird, one of his best friends, and you saw immediately when he won, he went to console Big Bird, but F-Word and Logan Sama, I think it was one of them, they had a good point. They were like, yo, this is your moment. Like, pop off. Like, go crazy. You know you want to go crazy. You've been at his position before. But because he has been in that position, he has so much more empathy. And it's a conflicting thing to be. That's why I say friends. It sucks having friends in this, because if I were to beat Shine or Punk in the grand finals of Capcom Cup, and especially this year, Brian, first place is $1 million, second place is 100K. 100K is a lot, but that is a crazy drop off.
Absurd.
You know, because Chris Wong, he got second place last year, but he had like happy tears. He got 300 grand. He'd be all right. But 1 million to 100K, fuck, man, that's a lot.
That's too much. But that Evo moment, I really love that moment, because I get chills just thinking about it, because I feel like it had so much reverence, and it was such a big moment, because you know how both of them have felt in that moment, and both of them knew going into it that it was going to be like life changing and soul crushing for one of them. Like
Big Bird got second too.
Yeah, Big Bird. That was they were both grand finals appearances. They both fell short before, and so in that moment, I think it's beautiful that Punk first like waited, was digesting the moment, looked to Big Bird. Big Bird was obviously down, but he acknowledged Punk and said, "Go have your moment."
Oh, did
right? He looked to his friend and it's like, it's okay. You know, there was like a moment of acknowledgement, and there was like the nod of understanding of like, go ahead, you know, like you did it. And to me, I think that's a beautiful thing, right?
No, that's
like,
awesome.
Like they both understood the weight of it and they acknowledged it. And so I think that's a great way for that to end between two competitors and friends who have shared in such great defeat in that moment, because it was going to be dramatic no matter what, right?
So if you were in that position,
that's the beauty of it.
Do you think you would have popped off first and then console your friend, or the other way around? Like, how do you think you would react?
I think there would have been definitely an initial like sort of pop off, and then I probably would have acknowledged them, and I would have probably just cried. I think I'd be a crier. Like, obviously, my odds of winning anything of that sort have been declining rapidly day by day, but every time I've thought about when I was really fully like grinding and traveling to tournaments, I always imagined like if I got a win of that caliber, I would just cry. I think. Like I can't imagine doing anything else. A hunger box, maybe.
You shouldn't say so short, man. You're the Texas Showdown champion, brother. Stop it.
Thank you. Thanks to you, especially, right? I have to thank you. I have to thank Punk, JB, Shine. What was the tournament in? Bro,
there was 3 tournaments that weekend. There was
Evo Japan.
There was Level Up Expo, and then there was Texas Showdown.
That one. Yeah, Level Up Expo. That's the one. I want to thank everyone who went to that tournament instead.
Like, you played good. I watched the tournament. I was bored at home. I was bored in my hotel. You played good.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate it. Yeah, I'm proud of it. I mean, obviously, to me, I think as a competitor, and I think maybe people who don't compete don't recognize that much. The way you judge your own performances are very personal, right?
Yeah.
Like, I'm sure you've won tournaments that meant nothing, and you've lost tournaments that meant everything.
Yeah,
right.
For sure.
In fact, I have a plaque right here. Let me grab it just to show you real quick. This second place. This second place is on my shelf and means so much to me. And this second place is me getting second to you.
Oh, really? I have the first place one.
I don't know if that's the one that you broke immediately.
It's broken. Yeah, I had to throw it away, unfortunately.
Oh, man. So what I'm holding up is a little plaque for Gatorland Summer 2015 Ultra Street Fighter 4 second place. And that was the university tournament at UF that I would go to every semester while I was attending, and then do at one point, started showing up to a couple of them, and my shots of winning, you know, they disappeared at that point.
And it was a free tournament. It was cool. It was like a free. I don't know if it still happens. You know.
They were still doing Gatorlands. I don't know if they do any fighting games anymore, but and also they started changing some rules for some years. I heard from some of the organizers, so I haven't kept up with it. If they still do it, they ran into some like gambling issues. You know, like they always treat gaming like gambling. It's a very strange thing. So yeah, really cool event they put on at the time. They would give out prizes because you couldn't pay to enter. But it was just about pride, right?
Yeah, the trophy was cool. I like the little plaque.
Right. I have bigger ones for first place, and they're in my closet. But I got funny. First places when you didn't show up. But the second place one to me, I just remember being so proud of that performance. And I don't remember exactly how the games went, but I feel like we had like a decent set.
Okay,
and, like,
so the quality
to me,
of the match was so important to you compared to the first place. Okay.
Exactly. So to me, it's about like the quality of the gameplay, and also you have targets, right? You have to have like, I want to beat X, Y, or Z player. You compare yourself to other competitors in your level. So that's, to me, is what I feel like. If I get a set win over a player that I've been looking to beat for a long time or get to their level, that to me means so much more than if I win a local with players that I've beaten in other tournaments, you know, not to rag on them, but you have your levels you compare to. So Texas Showdown for me, I felt like I was a favorite to win, but I'm still proud of how I played. I managed to do uppercuts with Ed.
And you won with Ed, right?
Yeah, I won with Ed.
I always felt like with JP, like your JP was cool, but I felt like you were so unsure in so many situations. I was like, I don't think this is Brian's character.
I wasn't sure against you. No, I wasn't sure against you. That was different. You beat my ass so bad. I've never been able to get close to you in Street Fighter 6.
Bro, the soul farming, it's like, I'm like X5 when it comes to playing you, because I love seeing your reaction when we play. It's not like you're raging. It's just you're like, every time I beat you in the end of the round, you're just like, you just don't know what's going on. It's so funny to see.
No, I have no idea how to in season 1 of Street Fighter 6 with JP. I felt pretty confident actually in a lot of situations, but when I would play you, I was like, yeah, there's another level to this that I clearly am not grasping. Like, it was like not even close to a degree of like, oh, if I just do this or that, I was like, no, like this, I'm clearly I'm missing part of this equation. Because you picked up 6 really quick though. Like, you started immediately picking up where you left off.
Well, I got lucky because Guile, he's really similar to Street Fighter 5. So I got really lucky. I think if I jumped into the game and didn't have Guile, I would be pretty lost. But thankfully, I also played Cammy in Street Fighter 5. I played her in all the games. So while everyone was learning the mechanics and their character, I was already kind of into my character and just had to learn the mechanics.
Okay. Yeah, Guile, I mean, Guile's game plan is always at least fundamentally tied to like the Sonic Boom Flash Kick game, right? So you had a good foundation to patch up what you don't know in the beginning, right? All the drive mechanics and all like that. So that does make sense. I do feel like week or month 1 of Street Fighter 6, like Guile was everyone's worst nightmare because they don't understand how to get through the Sonic Booms or perfect parry yet. Like, just navigating that.
But there were very clear players that were playing the game for more than 8 months.
Yeah, I mean,
so
the
like,
game got cracked,
dude. My Guile, if I get a DI stun, I would just do a jump in, crouch mean punch, flash kick. But the other Guile, I'm not gonna name their names, but the other guys would hit you with a 45 hit combo. I'm like, yo, how do you know that? How do you know this? Like, I'm losing the Guile players, and I'm not even killing those Guile, but I'm losing other Guile players. I'm like zoning them out. I'm killing them in the fireball game. But when they touch me, I'm dead. I'm like, bro, this ain't right. Like, this sucks. We're playing for money. We're playing for money. Yep. My kids got to eat, and you're doing these combos that I don't even know exist. But we're past that point.
That's true. And one thing I thought about that. So yeah, definitely a lot of players benefited from partaking in the crack at that time. Because for people who don't know, I'm assuming most people listening to this would know. But the Street Fighter 6 beta comes out, and there's an 8-month gap before, at least from the final one, from when the final game releases. And during that time, there's still Street Fighter 5 competition. So there's portion of the player base is still focused on the final Capcom Cup for Street Fighter 5, but you know, for the rest of the people, like, there's something to look forward to. The beta gets cracked at some point, and people have offline training mode, and I think even local multiplayer. Like, people were bringing setups to tournaments that had the Street Fighter 6 beta cracked to play local multiplayer. So they had those 8 characters, including Guile, Ken, Ryu, like the base Luke, the basic Street Fighter 6 characters from the beta. And there was a period in time where it was a little questionable. Like it was like, oh, this guy's cracked, you know, not just good, but he's cracked, right?
Yeah.
But I feel like also it does suck because in the beginning there were a lot of tournaments that were at their most hype, like a lot of those weeklies and stuff, where the biggest prize pools are up front.
Yes.
But they're also kind of teaching you. You know, do you feel like they taught you the combo after? No. Like, do you feel like you copy pasted and kind of learned to beat them right after?
No, they wouldn't talk to me afterwards. They would just see me the next tournament. They'll see me the next day in the next tournament.
But you got the video of the combo. You can just copy paste it at that point.
But it's not. It's the combo, and it's like while we're trying to get familiar with our character, if I whiff a throw, why am I losing 40%? Like he already has the optimal combo down for the shimmy. You know, we're still learning everything. Why am I getting perfect parried in this scenario? Because they already learned. Like how to properly use the
gaps.
Yeah, we're still learning how to use our character, and like we're supposed to learn all that together. We're not supposed to find out because you're doing it to us. You know what I mean?
Right,
right. I kept me up at night so much. I hated
really? Okay.
Yeah, because like I don't lose on purpose, but at the same time, that's just not fair.
Yeah, it was an unfortunate time. I do still feel like in the end we made it through. Like the playing field leveled, so. I don't think it ruined the launch of the game, but there was definitely some, you know, it wasn't an equal playing field, which is unfortunate. And did the CPT start that early? There was a little bit of a gap to get people to catch up before CPT began, but Evo was not that long after the game's release, right? So suddenly you have the biggest tournament of all time ever. I think the biggest gaming tournament ever is occurring, and if you weren't partaking in that crack, you were
like
clearly
entrance, right?
Yeah, clearly falling behind. And you went really far that Evo though. You got, what did you get? Ninth place, I think.
That was a heartbreaking loss because I used the wrong controller because with a certain converter, it lags if you use the analog, and I was an analog user, not a D-pad. I would only use D-pad for Cammy, right? So I had just played Caba, and I used my D-pad. But if I were to use Guile, I would have to use this whole separate controller. But since I had just fresh beating Caba, I had to play Tokido, and I felt so slow. I was like, yo, like, why is my crouch heavy punch losing? Like, why am I so slow? I feel like I'm playing okay. And then I lost, and I walked off stage, and I'm holding my PS4 controller. I was supposed to be using PS5. Yeah, this is why I switched to PS5, because it's just too, like, it's just a heartbreaking loss to lose in that manner.
Okay, so you used the wrong controller, which you think added some input delay, which slowed it down.
Yeah, no, it for sure had the input delay. But when you use the converter, or then use the joystick, it lags way more than a D-pad.
Right. No, the converters definitely add delay. I mean, that's been the big problem with us switching to this new generation with the PS5 as the tournament standard, because like nobody, especially at that time, hardly anyone had a PS5, dude. Like, getting a PS5 was so hard to get, and like, do you even want a PS5? It's so expensive, and there's like no utility besides, I mean, in my personal opinion, I don't know what you play on a PS5. Like at this point,
man.
if you have the money
but it's not.
If you have the money for a PS5 as a recreational gamer, it's like you might as well almost get a PC. I feel like, because and there's no games that are worth it on the PS5. So a lot of people didn't have the proper controllers. They're buying converters. It was a weird time. And even for TOs, like, dude, transporting a PS5, the shape of it doesn't make sense. And then also at that Evo, they're all melting down everywhere. Did you have any problems with the USB ports melting?
But I think Strider had his USB stick melted or something like that. Yeah,
that happened to me with Tatsunoko. I think you know him from Street Fighter Cross Tekken.
Oh yeah. I
didn't know he played. When digging through your results, I was like, Tatsu played Street Fighter Cross Tekken? Yeah, your earliest result on Liquipedia is your Street Fighter Cross Tekken tournament in, what is it, August 12th, 2012. Yeah. You got second place in a New York qualifier. Yeah, he beat you.
Yeah.
He trolled you?
No, he destroyed me, I'm saying.
Oh, he destroyed you.
Yeah, he destroyed me.
I didn't know he was big in Street Fighter Cross Tekken, but I had to play him in Evo that year, and there was a big delay because he had a USB port melted into his controller, and we didn't realize it. So people were going to consoles left and right, and the PS5s were overheating, which causes like frame rate delays on the game itself. It causes inconsistencies of gameplay, and the USB ports would literally, like, the molding would snap off into your controller, and then you wouldn't be able to plug your controller into the next console. Jeez. So the PS5 is just
Yeah, I
It's
don't
just a
like that
shit
as
show.
the standard of choice, man. I hate that it's so backwards for us. Like we're used to offline is the best scenario for Street Fighter, but now this PC, your home setup has the less room for error. You know,
Right.
going to an offline event with PS5, you just sound like you're complaining. Like it sucks. Like people don't know at Street Fighter League, my first match with Caba, it was so laggy. So I'm glad I won the first game because they edited it out. But after I won the first game, I was like, yo, like I said it just like that. I was like, yo, this shit is mad laggy, bro. And I'm glad I said it off of a win because you just look like a sore loser saying it off of an L.
It's so impossible. That's the one thing that I feel like the players need is someone to advocate for them, because the optics of complaining about things that you are objectively correct in are horrible when you lose. And like like we need to have a voice, and like that's something I'm willing to do if I'm not involved in something. Like I'm willing to be the one complaining and like look like the Karen or whatever, because we have to have someone to complain about these things. And yeah, if you win, then you should always leverage that to complain about lag or something not correctly configured, something going wrong with the tournament. Like if you're the winner, always do that. So I'm glad you did that. Were you on PC though for Street Fighter League?
PC, yeah. And this is a while ago. Dumb bro to bring up, but Street Fighter League Season 1, when you were part of, I'm not gonna get into detail, but I thought you were being a diva, but you were the MVP, bro, for all the people. Like not the captains, but the other players. You spoke for all the other players. Yeah, they definitely appreciate you for that.
I would argue that Rob was the MVP at the end of the day. I think he helped get the players paid.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think he was more constructive. I just didn't care. Yeah, I appreciate being on Street Fighter League Season 1, but they had ridiculous call times and the production of it all. And at the time, they're having players. There's a few full-time pros, like such as yourself and Punk and a handful of others, but for the most part, it's the hobbyists. Like it was like the tier 2 and tier 3 squad, myself included, being pulled out there, and we work full-time, and we're taking time off work, and for a lot of people, losing money to be there, and they weren't being paid for their appearance. It's just like, I was like, what did we sign up for? Like, why are we here? And I was working remote at the time. I was not even taking days off work. I was logging in, working after the show. Yeah, it was 2 weeks. I can't just take time off 2 weeks. I'm already taking time off to travel to CPT events all over the place. So I'm like working remote. And yeah, I would be late. Oh, we don't start for another 4 hours. I'm on a call or something for work or whatever. I was like, whatever. Like I didn't cause any issues with the production whatsoever. Like at no point did you need me. Anytime you needed me, I was there. You know?
That's so funny to hear.
Yeah,
but it's true though. Like you're there and you're not needed until you're actually time to play. But by then, it's like 4 hours have passed already, and you could have just been laying in your hotel room instead of waiting in Street Fighter League for 9 a.m.
Right. I was a bit of a diva. I'll own up to that. In future productions I've been a part of, I've always been very on time and very respectful about that. But that one, it was different.
Slam for you.
That was good. I mean, the only issue with that was unfortunately they did the setup on a TV, which was really yeah. I think that was something that got out of the control under Stage Jam because Twitch Rivals was doing the production at the very end. So it's just unfortunate that like the finish line, it's like we had setups everywhere. The way the stage is set up for this event is they're doing other Twitch Rivals competitions under different named events. So they did like a Minecraft one. I think they did a Rocket League one, a Call of Duty. So they have all these rows of PC setups all linked up to each other with Discord calls and all the webcams and production so that we could all be on our own personal PC setup and be coordinated for the show. So they did that for every other game. But for Stage Jam Slam, they're like, oh, it's fighting games. Let's have everybody sit on a couch and be live and moving and sit in front of a giant TV on the wrong settings. And I'm like, as soon as I walked out and I saw that TV, I was like, okay, this is just for fun. You know what I mean?
It was
like
a big TV?
It was like a 70-inch like home TV.
But the players were playing off of that, or there was a play on a small TV?
Instead of having us play on all the personal PC setups, they would have the teams come down to the stage and sit on a couch in front of the giant TV, and you would play off the giant TV. And the worst part was the first 2 matches were the laggiest, and then during the third match, Brawl Pro is he's playing his game, and they realized halfway through that it was S-Fan. He was like, oh, bro, it's pretty laggy because he won. He won the game. He beat Brawl Pro's ass. And it's like, bro, is it laggy? And he grabbed the random TV remote and he's like, oh, it's on movie mode. And he put it on game mode, which cut like 2 or 3 frames off the input delay. It was still, even that when I sat down to play, it still wasn't a tournament setup. It was still bad. But for the first 2 sets, it was unplayable. And so I'm glad S-Fan stepped up when he won to say that. And then he got washed after Brawl Pro, like completely destroyed him because there was no more lag.
It looked cool though. The event looked pretty dope. Looked fun.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I mean, yeah, shout out to SageM for organizing that. It can help connect us to like people outside the scene, and I think that's a good thing to have to help bring more people in, because we're very insular sometimes, and we don't have the views we could be having.
Yeah, it's kind of unfortunate because I feel like that just is so special. It is,
and that's why I think we have to just be better about like advertising ourselves and promoting ourselves. I mean, that's why I'm doing something like this that potentially preserve these stories and maybe reach new people. We'll see about that. And that's why I tell players like they have to also do a lot of content stuff. So that's something you've been doing. Actually, you've been actually kind of, you know, spread your wings a little bit, right? Like you've been for years like almost purely a competitive player, purely going to tournaments and having a lot of success. And then I feel like in Street Fighter 6, like you really buckled down and started streaming. Like, was that something you did just by choice? Were your sponsors thinking you should do that?
Definitely not sponsored. It was actually because of you and Smug. I was talking to Smug on the phone yesterday, and I said like, bro, there was in 2018. There was a year where me and Punk were low key irrelevant, and like if we went to a tournament, we would lose. We would get smoked, and people would just not cheer for us, and people would forget about us. And there would be times where like during my peak, I would look forward to like being on my like I would wake up and look at my phone and not thousands, but like literally like so many messages of people asking how my day is, like, oh, you're so amazing, you won this tournament, or can you help me out with this and this? But in 2018, when we're not doing nothing, it's just crickets, bro, and it's low-key like a reality check, and it's kind of sad. But then when I see you and Smug go on stream and you guys are getting washed, it's okay. Like everyone's just so in love with the Brian F brand and the Smug brand. I was like, yo, that's actually really dope. Like regardless of how you do, like people are gonna mess with you, and I really like that concept. And so I wanted to just dip my toes into it and see how it is. I don't like content, I'm not gonna lie, like because I don't know. I don't feel like I'm anything crazy special. I'm just good at the games like Street Fighter, but yeah, I'm trying to figure out ways to like tier list is the easiest one I feel because like people love expressing their opinions on the YouTube video. So yeah, I'm still figuring it out. But I do use your videos as a reference. Like I go to your channel and Punk's channel just to see like what are these guys doing? Like yeah, what are you guys creating and stuff?
That makes sense. Yeah, that's what you're. Well, that's flattering. Even though you had to mention how badly we were getting washed, so thank you for that. But it's true, right? And I mean, that's something that I always approached it with because I mean, you started being really successful very early. I was not like that, so to me, it was like documenting my journey and the struggle along the way. Is like I was very upfront with like, hey, failure is the default. Let's see if we can break through and find success here. Like that's kind of the brand image. And that makes it more endearing in that way. That way, when you do have that moment, no matter how small it may be, you have people like, oh, crap, he did it. Like, oh, wow, he qualified for SageM Slam by beating Diaphone. It's like, okay, yeah, whatever. But like, you know, like that's a huge deal in that moment because of how it's structured and like how you present that. So I really enjoyed that process. But for someone like you don't have to necessarily do content where you're discussing things or doing tutorials or whatever. Like for you, the content and the entertainment is your skill, success. Like you have something that nobody else on the planet has. Like you, as NuckleDu, the player, create moments that no one else in the world can. So that to me is already like the content. Now maybe there's more that can be done to like package that, to grow it. And I think that's for like maybe like, you know, sponsors and content managers, maybe other people can help work on that so that you can focus on what you want to do. But I'm really glad you at least started streaming because I think just as a pro player, I've always been concerned about the economics of all this because we have a talent drain, right? So many of the great players, the people you competed with in the Street Fighter 4 days, where are they now? And it's not just because of maybe lack of passion. Yeah, it's not just because of, I wouldn't say it's just because of age.
Yeah, no, it's not. It's just funny bringing up their age because they're old.
Yeah. Hey, man, I'm closer than you are, but soon, soon, dude. Right? So I think the future proofing of this is super important because I want people or players to be great, and I don't want them to start falling off just because they have to get a job. They have to focus their attention elsewhere. You're forced to economically do something at some point, right? You look at a place like Japan. Itabashi just qualified for Capcom Cup. He's 43, right? Sako's still competing. Daigo's competing. They're in their 40s, and they're making a living playing Street Fighter professionally. And they do extracurriculars. They do stream, and then sometimes they do like talk shows and other things of that nature. But they're not sitting down like, hey, YouTube, how's it going? I'm Daigo Umehara, and here we're going to do my tier list. You know,
they're literally just playing.
They're mostly just playing, or they're offering value in terms of their expertise and experience. They're sharing that information in a very calm and normal manner. So that's part of the economics of doing it. And I'm hoping in the stateside and the rest of the Street Fighter and FGC, we can adopt that. And the first part is just streaming, right?
Yeah.
So I'm really glad you've been doing that. Have you noticed that, like, improving your career? Do you feel like it's helped you out at all, or do you feel like it's been a hindrance? Because I always wonder about that aspect in terms of competing.
I don't know if it's a mental block, but I do think it's not good to stream everything because when I'm like I know players are watching me, like, and people that I don't know that I didn't think would watch me, they tell me they watch me. Like when Lashard told me he watches me play, and we're in the same group at EWC. I'm like, shit, why the hell is he watching me? And yeah, so I do think it's not good to stream everything, but I literally do not have the time to not. It's like I'll like do chores, and I'll take my kids to school, pick them up, and then now it's time for a tournament run. You know, there's not much time in between to really practice. But if the tournaments is my practice, all the footage is out there for my opponents. You know, so
right.
And I started streaming with my camera off, and I turn on the Snorlax because only for important tournaments like World Warrior. Because Boost isn't streaming, you know, Safe isn't streaming. And at the time when Mendo was in the World Warrior, he's not streaming. And I see them in my stream chat. Not like they're not talking about, I see them in the viewer list. And like, I'm like tilting. I'm like, fuck. You know, like they can hear all that. And I'm like, wait a minute, that's not good, you know? So I don't think, like in terms of the competitive aspect, I don't think it's doing me favors. But in terms of financial, it's good because, dude, doing this competitively just solo I don't think it's sustainable. You can't bank your financial living off of term results. That's insane. And I used to do that. We used to do that. Well, I don't know if you did. Well, you were always like in school and stuff.
Yeah.
But I used to do that, and it's not sustainable. So I needed something more stable for my family, which is why I started 24/7 streams in Street Fighter 4 before Street Fighter 6 came out. So that was pretty good. So like, I wanted to ask you about the Uma situation. Like, how do you feel about the Uma route? Like he said he's poor. He went to the cut with $200. He won the $1 million, and he just stops playing. Like, how do you feel about that?
Well, at the end of the day, Uma, great for him. I'm thrilled that he was able to have that success. Happy for him to come up on all the money. For the game, I obviously don't think it's great. Mm-hmm. I do wish he would participate because I feel like it would help the world of Street Fighter, right? Is he obligated to? Absolutely not.
Of course not.
Right? No, he can live his life, and his happiness is still the priority in that equation in my mind, for sure. I would have preferred if maybe he would have saw value or saw some kind of personal joy in leveraging that to give back to the scene in some way. Not monetarily, but just his presence, right?
Yeah.
Just your presence as the champion, I think, gives back. But can I blame him? Like, if he wanted to heavily compete, maybe there's stress involved. That's a high peak to come down from, right? Like, you come out of nowhere. He competed in every single premiere up to that point, right? He was getting like top 32 at Evo, top 64 at CPT, Singapore and France.
He was traveling? I actually didn't know that.
He went to all that season. There was only 3 offline qualifiers, and he went to all of them. He just didn't do amazing. Well, he still lost to like world-class players. I went through all his runs. There was not, you would know all the names that he lost to, and they're people who have won CPT events, right? So I want to give him props there. That can just happen, right? 3 tournaments is not a big sample size. It's just crazy that there's only 3 tournaments offline in the season. Yeah. But imagine going from that to winning the $1 million out of nowhere. And then you go back. He went to Evo Japan after he got like top 128, which is still like not a horrible result. But to go from Capcom Cup to that is definitely a drop off. psychologically,
like,
that's going to be tough.
Yeah, I don't hate anything he's doing. I don't really care. I just feel like if he was so broke, I feel like there's so much more value coming back, getting sponsors and, you know, streaming. Like, you know, because like $1 million in this economy, bro. I'm not trying to sound like one of those dudes that, oh, 100K is nothing. But, bro, money is becoming less and less valuable. And, like, you know, I feel like
he's in
so much.
Taiwan. So it's I think the conversion rate, like, I think relatively he has a lot more money.
Oh, really?
So,
okay, that's good.
So I think the comparison we'd have to make, I'm not sure exactly the comparison, but imagine maybe 10 or 100 times more.
Really?
Right? That's what I was told. I don't want to completely fudge the numbers. People will probably correct me in the comments. But from my understanding is that it's more than $1 million. So $1 million, and depending on where you are in America, can go in a couple of years. It really can. You hit one emergency, one medical emergency, one whatever. House fire, some life happens, dude, right? And so if I knew Uma personally and he was American and lived in an economy that I understood, I would be like, get it together. Like, make this last right now, right?
Yeah,
like,
you definitely could, bro. When he Capcom come out of nowhere, that's sick. I'm not gonna lie.
I mean, that's the thing that frustrates me with so many other players, is that I've seen so many players be a flash in the pan or like have an opportunity, and they never turn it into anything. And I'm like, dude, if I won Evo or Capcom Cup, I could flip that into way more money. You know what I mean? Just the capitalization. You don't have to win anything for the rest of your life. Just that notoriety alone, you can turn that into brand awareness. You can turn that into content creation. You can turn that into sponsorships. You can turn that into appearances. You can turn that into so many other avenues to then grow that to secure like your financial freedom at that point, basically, or at least safety for life, right?
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, you do whatever makes you happy. So if he's happy and he's safe and sound, that's the number one thing. But I just more am a little sad about the legacy of Street Fighter in that sense, because
that
there's
was the
no
first one for the $1 million.
Yeah, that's the first one for the $1 million, and I think that's a problem with the format. That's one criticism I have of the format, and you mentioned it earlier. The prize splitting is absurd, and it's gotten worse.
Yeah,
so
it's worse, unfortunately.
There's no money in the premieres. There's a little bit of money in the World Warrior, and I do want to give props to Capcom for that, especially the conversion rates for certain regions. If you do well in the World Warrior, get regional finals or win or qualify, like for some people in some parts of the world, they're making really good money because it's American dollars. Yeah. So it really is helping them out. And I want to make sure to be conscious of that. But overall, relatively, the money is all funneled to the top.
Yeah.
And so it literally encourages you to retire. I think this is the Capcom retirement program. You win the $1 million, and then you may never come even close to 1/10 that money ever again. Why would you waste your time playing?
At least we got EWC now too. I think their structure is pretty good. Like the qualification, it has a lot of money, like 50K tournament. So like DreamHack Dallas and Sweden, they each have 50K prize pool. And then even if you get last place, like me and Punk did, we still get $5,000 for our efforts for qualifying. And then the winner got 300K, second place got 2 or 100K. I think that's pretty good. So thankfully, we have more than just Capcom Cup to look forward to, because that'd be pretty rough.
I have my concerns about EWC, considering all the political implications, and I know a lot of people have talked about that in the community as well. But I just feel like they're so positioned to buy out Capcom because it's just they're printing money. Like the amount of income, they have no reason to make a return on the investment into this, into esports. They're just throwing money at this.
Yeah.
They have infinite more money than Capcom does, who is looking to actually make a return. Like Capcom's business model here is obviously get enough attention on esports so that it drives DLC sales and gets new customers in. But EWC has none of that. They don't care. Like, it's just to build their reputation in the world as like a leading form of leading provider of entertainment, and to build the Saudi Arabia reputation.
Yeah.
And so the problem is their package is so much better for the players. Like I can't blame people who are like full-time competitive pros for like not turning down that money regardless of the source, because it's just not sustainable otherwise. And I feel like that's such a stimulus package to allowing them to actually be full-time professionals. Whereas the package from the Capcom Pro Tour, it's so top heavy that only, like, you could argue like 2 people can have a successful year. Like second place, it's 100K. That's pretty good. In some parts of the world, like you're a millionaire off that, right?
Yeah.
Relatively. And then the guy who wins the million, like whoever gets that, obviously they could potentially spend that to be set for life, right? But everyone else, like
kicking rocks,
like they are. It's not a successful year, and if you don't make it out of group stages, dude, like what is that, $1,000 or something, like 1,500
for Capcom
group
Cup?
stages?
I believe it was. I want to say 2,000, which is better than the previous years. There was one year where if you got last place Capcom Cup, you get 250.
250?
Yeah, 250.
Yeah, so it's just so strange that they have that much money and they put at the top. Because one thing I bring up multiple times is when we were watching, or like I did a lot of restreaming of EWC, and the people in the chat would mention like, oh, who's going to be a millionaire? Like, oh, the $1 million. And I'm like, at no point is there a $1 million prize pool in EWC. No. First place, I think, was 300,000 or 400,000 for that, Shanghai secured. But it still had the brand awareness as if they gave away $1 million. Because I think Capcom's going for like, oh, the $1 million check. Like someone's going to be a millionaire from Street Fighter. Look at the buzz that generates. But at a certain point, like you can get close to that and spread out the money and have $1 million tournament, but you're splitting the prizing up. And it's you can still even use that $1 million tagline. Oh, it's $1 million tournament, $1 million in prizing that we split between 30 players. So I feel like they're really incentivizing people to just retire. Like I think we can see more Umas in the future.
But I really do like that EWC is another thing because even though they have a bad rep with sports washing and stuff, like bro, we live in America. It's not like America's the saint, like they're angels, bro. Like
no,
they started a lot of shit that we don't even know about too. So that's actually how I got into EWC. Is I wasn't invited initially because I wasn't doing too hot in season 1 Street Fighter 6 like in the beginning. But there was a player. I mean, I don't know if he wants to be named, but yeah, he was invited. But he tweeted that like, I can't support the sports washing. I appreciate the invite, but I'm not gonna go. So they invited me, and I was at Evo, like because like EWC was like a week right after Evo, so there was no me going home from Evo. I had to decide on the spot if I wanted to make EWC. And instantly I said yes. Like, bro, did you see the price? The price cut? It was insane. And I told my wife, I was like, yeah, this kind of sucks that I can't go home. You had to call out work. But this opportunity is insane. Like, and like, regardless of where the source is, it doesn't mean that I support whatever people's issues are with Saudi is. Because my thinking is like, bro, like no one is perfect. Especially America. I love my country, but like let's not pretend like we're all perfect. And so for me, my mindset was to just go and make my money. And I had my concerns, because like the little years that I was in school, America did a really good job on brainwashing us about the Middle East and how scary and bad it is, right? So I had my concerns. Especially
at that time. Yeah.
So
we grew up in the worst of that.
It was amazing. Like it was pretty good. The food was amazing. It was a culture shock because all the women were fully covered up. I thought it looked cool, but it was very different. And it was really cool for me to experience the Middle East for the first time, like for myself, and and not always have images of what our schools taught us about it.
Yeah, it's definitely a huge opportunity, like to see a different part of the world, get to experience different culture. So, and like I mentioned before, I think the prize money and the way the economics of being a pro player is set up, like I really, even if I think regardless of your politics on it and your feelings about it, I think you can recognize that the way it's set up, I feel like the pro players almost don't have a choice if they want to sustain a living. It's like I definitely have some other reservations about EWC and sports washing and things of that nature. Like I personally, I would prefer it to not be the direction everything goes to. I would rather Capcom maintain more control than EWC if I had to choose one or the other. But my concern is I feel like they're eating Capcom's lunch right now. I really feel like they're starting to maybe Capcom sees this as like a beneficial partnership for them. But my concern is eventually CPT goes away and it's just EWC. Like I can see that being a future that occurs because they just have infinite money, and Capcom seems to be doing a worse job with promoting the CPT. So, and
it does suck because like Angry Bird, he won the biggest Evo, 7,000 entrants. He won $20,000. Okay.
Yeah.
I went to EWC. I got 7th place, a whack placement. 7th place. I got $30,000.
Yep.
And like that's
our
insane,
most prestigious tournament.
Yeah,
the
like,
biggest tournament of all time.
The biggest tournament. I got 7th place. I got my ass kicked. I got 7th place and got more money than him. Like, come on, bro. Like,
yeah. There's no correlation with prestige and prizing in the FGC, and that's been a thing for a long time. Like, even think back in the day, dude. Like, wasn't it always true that the weirdest tournaments that nobody knew about in the FGC, that nobody wanted to go to or knew about, like a random anime con or something, had the most money?
Yeah,
like that was always always the case. I mean, people back then used to try to like gatekeep tournaments, like secure like the random side tournament at an anime convention, or some kind of business is throwing an event. They have no idea what they're doing. The rule set's all wrong.
Yeah.
But they would have like a $10,000 pot bonus or something. Like, that was the hustle.
Sometimes they didn't pay out.
Like
I've been the one that didn't pay out, bro. $10,000. I beat Snake Eyes in grand finals, and they just disappeared. They had a Verizon as a sponsor. I hit up Verizon. I was like, yo, what the fuck? I'm like, yo, we weren't even affiliated with them. So
they lied about the sponsorship?
Yeah, I traveled to Dallas. They had a Verizon tent and everything. Like, they were trying to sell their Verizon products. So I don't know. But yeah, I won the tournament, and I just never got paid. And
this was in Street Fighter 4?
Yeah. The people that hosted the tournament just disappeared. Yeah, it was unfortunate. So you did run the risk of like random tournaments with attracting people with big prizes. There's pros and cons to that.
Yeah, that existed a lot back in the day. There's so many scams back in the early Street Fighter 4 days. Even I got hit by that on a much smaller level, like a local Florida tournament. There was supposed to be a pot bonus, and it was the first tournament I ever won.
Oh, no.
Yeah, they're like, okay, so the rest, I at least paid the split with the pot, but there's supposed to be an extra like $100-$200. I don't know, like not even that much. They're like, all right, what's your address? And I'm like, what do you talk address? And they're like, yeah, so we're gonna mail you the check, or and I was like, the more they talked, I was like, I'm never seeing this money. I was like, I don't even want to give you my address right now, because I just would feel safer with you not having this.
Yeah.
And it was very strange. So nothing like, the multiple thousands of dollars that you were going through and all that. But that was super common.
Yeah, because it's just there's still no regulation really. Like, anyone could just throw a tournament, to be honest, right?
I'm assuming once you hit over a certain amount of money, there's probably some regulation you're supposed to go through, and even Capcom's trying to buckle down on that sort of thing, right? They put out random licensing rules where it's like, oh, if it's over X amount of dollars, you need to call us. And I'm assuming that's because they're like, give us some money. I don't know how that played out. That was something they put forward like late Street Fighter 5, I think, trying to be prepared for Street Fighter 6.
So, would you rather, because this is a hot topic, right? Would you rather win Capcom Cup or Evo? Because I feel like when someone says one answer, I feel like it's bullshit. So I want to hear your answer. Because you said you could flip an Evo win, so I'm curious. Would you rather win $1 million with Capcom Cup or Evo?
Well, $1 million is different. So back in the 250K days, it was for sure Evo.
Really?
For sure Evo. Now let me think. Now,
my problem is 20,000.
Yeah, 20,000. Yeah,
Brian, you don't have to think about it. Stop, bro.
I'd still think about it. No, I'd still think about it. But it depends on your perspective. Look, dude, like, I'm not a full-time professional player. Like, this is my hobby. Like, I have a job. You get what I'm saying? Like, to me, it's different. And I'm not in a rush to get a bunch of money, and I feel financially safe myself. So to me, when I competed more heavily and I traveled everywhere, it was just the dream. And to me, the Evo is still the dream. And when I look at Capcom Cup, it makes me sad sometimes, because Capcom Cup, the scale and the spectacle of it all has just shrunk year after year after year, and it doesn't have the reverence and the prestige that it should have.
Yeah, and it's really just a million.
Like when Mena RD won Capcom Cup in 2017, that was like the last year, and I guess 2019 was pretty good. I would also give props to 2019, but 2017 and that PlayStation Arena, wherever that was, that big convention center, the biggest stage I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Huge. That felt like a spectacle. That felt like a moment when Mena RD won. IDOM was at that club in LA. It was a better stage, but the Esports Arena in 2018 wasn't great.
Yeah. It was cramped, dude.
Yeah, and then since then, the venues they've used for Street Fighter 5 and Street Fighter 6 late in 2023 and 2022, it doesn't have like that it factor.
Yeah, I already don't remember the Capcom Cup 20, like last year's venue. Do you know what it was? I actually don't remember.
I keep forgetting. It's in Hollywood. I keep forgetting the name of it. It's a club in Hollywood, and they did it the same venue for the last Capcom Cup for Street Fighter 5, which I went to in person. So
yeah, that's just shows I don't even remember like what venue I was in because it's just nothing special. You know?
It's nothing special. What about 2016? How was that?
That was
I mean,
special.
you won
it's the
that
same
one
as 2017. Same exact venue.
It was the same venue?
Special. It was huge. Like there was a point at the top 8, like where I wasn't allowed to leave, but I was like, "Yo, can I leave 1 second? I need to use the bathroom." So I left, but I just wanted to see the crowd, and I was like, "Yo, that is insane!" Like I was just looking at the crowd, like, "Yo, they're all here to watch this top 8." You know, like it was insane. I don't really get those moments no more because I guess everything's online. You know?
Yeah. And in 2015 was also, I think, was that also a part of the Sony Experience convention as well?
Yeah,
you
but
were there as
different area, maybe a different stage because I remember being in that stage, and it was also pretty cool. It's just the stage didn't fill up, but it was huge.
Right. Yeah, I just remember as a spectator between the 2015 to 2017 era, you got this sense of scale when Capcom Cup was occurring. It really felt like the culmination of a whole year of the best Street Fighter players from around the world meeting up for that moment. So I feel like those years were very special. So Capcom Cup in those years, I would want to win. But late era, I'm not feeling it. So I don't know. What do you think?
Monetary value is not too... Oh, for me, Capcom Cup, man.
Yeah, million.
Just like you would flip the win, I could probably flip the million to something better, you know?
That's true.
20K is a little hard to work with, you know what I mean? Like I see people win 20K in the casino all the time. But a million, that's still a lot of money. So
well, you've also you've had your moments, dude. So like you've had the glory, you know. I think for us,
but if I won Evo, bro, when me and Punk after he won Evo, I was like, "Yo, Punk, how much did you win?" He was like, "I don't even know." And I looked it on Wikipedia. I was like, "Yo, Punk, you won 20 grand." Or no, I read it wrong. It was 12 grand, but I think Rick later changed it and said it's actually 20. But, But when I told him, I was like, "Yeah, you won 12 grand." He was like, he just did, you know, like he just had a turn of his life. But,
yeah. You shouldn't have told him anything. You should have just been like, "Oh, don't worry about it, man."
But like in Street Fighter 5, when Bonchan won, he won like 70 grand.
It was at least 50K. There was a pop bonus at that time for super premieres from Capcom. So Capcom needs to distribute a lot more money to the tournaments. All the premieres in general, there was more money involved. And then I think Evo and NA Regional Finals that you got second in 2019, those were super premieres. So those were the first times that they did like an extra 50K pop bonus.
I see.
Or at least 50K extra for first place. And I think that extended to second. I think you made pretty good prizing on the second place finish.
But even premieres back then, I remember because like I used to win the premieres. First place would get 7 grand. Like it was 15K prize pool for the top 8. And like every time you win a premiere, it felt good because you won a good chunk. But I'm not trying to dog too much on the current structure, but I feel like the general consensus is the structure of the Pro Tour is not the best at the moment because winning Cream City, which is a premiere to get into the cup, I think first place is $2,000.
Right.
You know, and you're beating the best players, you know?
They're not distributing the money like they could be. Because like I said, it's all the budget is less.
Top, like you said.
Yeah, they're all putting it on the top. And I'm like, I just feel like it's not... The trade-off is, of course, the headline versus the sustainability for the players. It's like, is this headline really, in the end, giving Capcom that much more return that they can't just redistribute this a little bit more evenly to grow the scene or to incentivize players to travel? I really don't feel like that's the case. Obviously, I don't work with the marketing team. I don't know for sure, but it feels like a misallocation of budget because, people aren't incentivized to travel. Like, were you going to go to more premieres if you didn't qualify out of this one, out of your World Warrior?
Yeah, like I would have went to King of the World, Paris, but I didn't want to. I don't want to go anywhere. Bro, I was thinking about this last night. Like, like you know that term is like it's not about the destination, but the journey. And I think about, I was like, of all the people we met, you know, I met like Phenom all the way from Norway, Gachiku in Japan. And I'm thinking about, I'm like, yo, like only a few of us is going to reach the top. So if everything's funneled to the top, it kind of sucks for the people that we met along the way. Because like, can they make it? You know, like it kind of sucks to think about it. And I just hope that everyone I met who's trying to achieve the same goal can at least obtain something of value outside of, you know, the feelings. Like at least some kind of financial gain we could get from this. Like everyone, because everyone you meet generally are cool people. You know,
right? So, obviously not everyone can be a full-time pro, but I'm hoping the end goal or the end result is more sustainability for the scene, because I think Japan's figured it out with Street Fighter League, Japan being so successful. And right now, it just feels like Japan is the only place where the pro scene is really thriving. Everywhere else, I feel like it's getting worse. Like, obviously, the esports bubble burst, right? Like, I mean, you were there front and center.
Yeah, I was there. That shit was crazy.
2016 to 2019, where venture capitalist funds were going crazy and they're just throwing money left and right. Dude. And I mean, I think most people knew that wasn't going to last. I don't know how you felt about that, because you were on Echo Fox, you're on Team Liquid at that time.
Ghost,
Ghost. Like, the salaries back then were pretty good. If you're at the top, like, did that seem like something?
I didn't know. I didn't. Yeah, it's hard for me to just not be tunnel vision, because when you're young and you're broke, and then all this money is being talked about in negotiations, like, yo, this shit might be infinite, So, or like it might be forever. But yeah, I should have known it was gonna be a bubble, because that shit is not sustainable, bro. Like, what are the players selling to justify a player of Street Fighter getting like 10K a month? Like, you can't make that return.
No, there's no way to make that return.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm wondering what they were trying to achieve with that, because like it made no sense. And so like I was always parallel to this, and I'm seeing it, and I'm like, dude, there's no way, like there's no way this lasts. And I feel like 2017 was when you saw the bubble start to burst. Like 2017 to me was the peak, and then from there on out, you could tell like things were slowly starting to taper off in the FGC as well. Because back then, so many players were getting sponsored relative to now, right? Like even these days,
for sure.
In the American scene, who's a full-time pro, right? There's like there's Punk. Who else is sponsored in
Nephew.
US of A? Nephew. Yeah, Nephew broke through. That's it, right?
Yeah.
Like on a more closer to tier 1 sort of esports team, right? Like.
Yeah, dude, I remember when I was with Ghost, when they were trying to sign me, they picked me up in a Rolls Royce Ghost, like a nice ass car. It was like a $300,000 car. And then they took me to the mansion, right? And I was like, yo, how much does this mansion cost? He was like, it's $30,000 a month. And they were like, yeah, it's Justin Bieber's old mansion. And I think it was at that moment I was like, okay, this is probably not sustainable. This is in the later half of the boat. It was like 2018, 2019. Mm-hmm. I was like, yeah, I don't think this is gonna last. And it did. It lasted a year, and I was gone. They didn't even fucking no goodbye tweet, nothing. They just my contract ended. I'm done. Like they didn't say bye or nothing. I'm like, damn, bro.
Well, I'm glad you at least recognize it. So for that team, that was post Team Liquid, right? And that's in between Echo Fox. Yeah. So for that team, was that just more like you recognize like, oh, this is funny money, just let me get my cash, and then when it goes down, get out? Or were you trying to build with them?
Yeah. I wasn't just trying to be with them for a short term, but the money was just so absurd that I was like, yo, it's hard to say no to this, because it was just so much money. Like they were just casually talking about like 12K contracts a month, and like to me, like how do you say no to that? How do you say no to something like that? But yeah, now you learn that a lot of people just blow smoke, like it just comes to age. People just
especially if they're flexing. Like if someone tries to pick me up in a fancy car, it's just like, dude. That's such a common theme you hear about. It's like it was almost like predatory. Like these teams backed by venture capitalists, they would try to buy a bunch of fancy cars and rent out these big old mansions and try to like woo these kids who don't know any better, and then have them uproot their lives to either do like esports or like content creation, whatever, on some kind of dream that was never going to take off. And it was so common at that time. So I'm glad you like made it through that era. Like for the players though, I think it was great. Like if you could balance your life, awesome, like get the money, find something sustainable out of it, and get out. They
had a chef every day while I was at the mansion, and there was a Gears of War team that we had there. Mm-hmm. And so the chef was making like amazing meals, but the players, they were like, yo, can we just order McDonald's chicken wings and cheeseburgers? I'm not even joking. Like, and Caba, he would be like, why are you guys doing this? Like, you guys have a chef. Like, why are you guys ordering McDonald's? But yeah, it just seemed like, it was a waste of money, right? It was just
that's the secret to being a top tier gamer, bro. You can't mess with the diet. It's got to be that. It's got to be the banquet frozen dinners. That might be the secret right there, man.
Yeah, I'm trying to eat more healthier, man, but it's hard. I don't know how you do it. Like when you play in tournaments, do you play better when you're hungry?
a little bit hungry. Yeah.
Yeah, me too. But I'm trying to gain weight.
You got to be a little bit hungry.
But like I noticed during my peak of tournament seasons, I'm so skinny and losing weight because if I want to play well, like World Warrior, I didn't eat beforehand and I was starving. But yeah, so it's such a hard balance. Like I want to gain weight, I want to be the macho dad for my family, but if I want to chuck booms effectively, bro, like
you gotta eat up, man. You gotta get the protein in. Yeah, but doing tournaments you can't eat because then you get the itis and then you just fall asleep.
Exactly,
and if you're going far in the tournament, that's all day.
Yep.
So like, what do? You can't really.
End of the night meal,
eat.
like whatever you eat, it's not gonna make up for the whole day of not eating. You know, like whatever you eat, it doesn't matter. Like,
and that's not very good for you either. That's as you get older, right? Like you're eating everything at the end of the night, like that can mess up your digestion. That can lead to acid reflux. Yeah, it's hard to balance. I mean, that's especially you're a father. I'm 32 now.
Oh, you're still young. You're still young as hell.
I mean, I've already had my fair share of old people problems.
But FGC 32 is young. You gotta admit that 32 is quite young.
Relatively, yeah. That's why I'm happy to see that there's newer players actually finally joining the scene, because everyone getting that old is tough.
But I don't like when Noah is being like, "Yeah, Item sucks. I don't know why y'all thought he was ever good." Like, come on, bro. Like he was not bad. I don't like ignorance when.
He's disrespecting the previous generation.
Yeah,
I mean, but that's you don't think you've been there. You don't think when you showed up to WNF and NLBC, disrespecting everybody, teabagging and throwing on the Guile shades. I
was just bored. I you could never catch me saying like, "Yo, this Justin was actually not good." My first major tournament, I money matched Justin, and I beat him. I never said that. I never said anything was along those lines. I promise you.
But your actions. I mean, you used to teabag. Your 2016 run, NuckleDu. Well, listen, I gotta be real with you. Your 2016 run to Capcom Cup, when you won the whole thing, didn't you teabag Shout High like a million times along the way?
I did, but it affected Shout High. I promise you, it did. It didn't affect Kazunoko, and Kazunoko is the reason why I stopped teabagging, because I was in Evo top 8. I was teabagging him, and I was still getting fucked up. I was like, "Yo, what's going on here? Like, why is he not playing any different?" But yeah, it doesn't work on everybody, but it worked on Shout High for sure, because he's a very confident fella, and when you show that you don't really care and you're toying with him, it actually does make him play worse, and that's why I teabag so much.
But I can see the validity in the strategy, but that's still kind of disrespectful, right? I mean, that's part of the strategy. Yeah. Right. So I'm just trying to defend Noah here. I mean, I do Noah, he speaks his mind, and I don't agree with everything he says, but I do think people sometimes give him too much flack for being so loud and cocky.
I like Noah, but I'm talking about like the younger players, because Noah's been around, but the younger players,
right?
They're attacking the older players. I don't like that. I feel like I always have to defend them. It's because they don't know. It's like like me when I first listened to rap. I don't know who Tupac was, and everyone loved him and hold him in such high regard. But if I don't know about him and I never heard him, then obviously you can say whatever you want because you just don't know. Yeah. I mean, that's a problem with every generation, right? So that's part of why I wanted to do stuff like this and like preserve some level of history. Because I guess as you get old, you see the young generation disrespecting what you grew up with, and you're trying to set the record straight. But we do have a real big recency bias and a lack of preservation with history in the FGC. And even like all of these tournament wins and accolades that you went through and other players through the Capcom Pro Tour, which to me is still like modern Street Fighter history, a lot of that is being lost to time. Like I was trying to look back on how you qualified for Capcom Cup in 2016, because I think at that time you did a lot of the online tournaments, if I remember correctly, in 2016 and 2015 as well, I think. But I tried to go back. I tried to verify that, right? I was like, okay, can I find the results anywhere? It doesn't exist, as far as I know. I went through the CPT website. You can find the archive page, and you can see the points you had. So I saw, like, for 2016, you were 4th in global rank and other things. And so you can see these point values and where you ranked, but there's no history of the tournament results. I can't even see what events were online. Wikipedia doesn't have the list of online events. So even for me, I was like trying to do a lot of in-depth research for this. I don't know how you qualified for Capcom Cup in 2015. I don't know how you got there. Like, you got top 8 at EVO. Which is a big deal, but I don't think that was enough on its own to get you into Capcom Cup. Definitely not.
Right.
No. Yeah,
so how did you actually qualify back then?
I have no idea. I mean, it's just traveling to tournaments. But I remember 2014, I qualified for the Cup, and I got a lot of hate for that because I qualified through online. And because I beat GamerB by 4 points, and I got those points through online. And at this time, it wasn't like people weren't aware of online circuit yet. It was there, but people weren't aware of it. They were just solely focused on offline. So when I qualified for the Cup, they're like, "Yo, NuckleDu robbed GamerB. Like, he sucks. He shouldn't be there. Like, well, why? Like, why is online allowed?" And then I ended up beating the favorite of the tournament. I beat Snake Eyes. He was one of the favorites to win the whole tournament, and I ended up beating him. But yeah,
I remember that being a discourse. Yeah, I couldn't find. I remember that being a talking point because, and for people who are maybe younger people listening to this today, CPT is all online. It's 99% online now, right? We even with the 10 qualifiers we get from offline. The other 38 are coming from online, right? There's a huge disproportionate amount coming from online. But back then, if you were played online, you were looked at as subhuman. You were like scum. You were an online warrior, which was derogatory. Like, it was used as like almost like a slur. Like, it was like if you wanted to insult a person at a tournament or like a player you didn't like what you would call them would be an online warrior. It was the number one way to pull the rug out from underneath them and discredit them. And to give some credit and context to that, delay-based netcode in Street Fighter 4 was a shit show. Like, sometimes it would work well, but like 90% of the time, you were playing almost a different game. Like, it was like a different meta. It was all one-frame links with no buffer, and any amount of input delay would change what was effective and what wasn't. So, like, if you played online randomly, like the random T-Hawk or Blanca, you couldn't beat them. You know, like, they were unstoppable. So I remember you qualifying via these online tournaments, and nobody even... Capcom Cup was new. That was the first year they did a tour. CPT 2013 was sort of like a tour, but I think it was also partly invitational. And then 2014 was when they had a point system. Yes. But nobody understood it. It wasn't that well advertised. So how did you even find out about these online tournaments to even begin competing? Because I didn't know about it until Capcom Cup happened.
This a guy we know, Alan, Asian Demon, he was the one that told me to do it. He signed me up and everything. He told me to do it. He was like, "Yo, like, this is actually pretty important." And I kind of just like brushed him off, but I eventually did it. And yeah, thankfully I did it because the people I beat, bro, it was just no one good. With all due respect, I don't even remember who I beat. And I remember the tournament being really easy, and that's how I made the cup, you know? So yeah.
It was so weird that no one would sign up. Even in 2017, like CPT, this attitude still existed. Like I'm too good to sign up to compete for the CPT points online. Like, that attitude still existed even to 2017. Because I remember that's when I was competing super heavy 2017, and I was getting like real far in these online tournaments, and there were still good players. Like I think you actually, did you sign up? I know like CJ Truth was in there. Maybe you were in there. Idom was in there, obviously. But I still remember like a lot of the Street Fighter 4 heads who were dominant at that time were not participating. They'd still go to offline premieres and like maybe even win, maybe even go far. But I'm like, dude, your goal is to get into Capcom Cup. These tournaments online are worth just as many points as the ranking events offline. I'm like, why aren't you signing up? Like, it was a very strange era
of offline. Like, they didn't want to be associated with online, I guess, or get their points tainted with offline online points.
Right. No, but it was real points. I'm really glad that you took that opportunity back then, or at least Alan pushed you to do that. So did Alan help you a lot at that time in finding tournaments? Because, I mean, you and Alan used to travel a bunch to these events.
Yeah, Alan helped me since the beginning, bro. He was my first real friend in the FGC. Because, like, a lot of people kind of brushed me off when I first joined the FGC. I'm not sure if you experienced it, but our locals, or not everybody, because Tampa FGC is amazing, but a lot of the top players were really, like, cliquish. And they were kind of cocky and didn't really want to talk to me until I started kicking their ass and they had to. But yeah, so it was just me and Alan. We would travel to all the tournaments in Florida. And I remember vividly, he would drive. I couldn't drive. I was only 14, 15. But he would drive to like Jacksonville 3 hours, Tallahassee 5 hours. And there was one tournament, we drove 3 hours for a 4-man tournament. Like, it was stuff like that. Like when we do the math and we enter like a 12-man tournament, it's like, okay, we at least get $60. But to me, it was a lot of money. Alan, he never charged me gas money or anything. He really just enjoyed going to these tournaments and helping me out too. So yeah, and, awesome. People don't know. Like, me and Alan weren't the closest like in my later years, but I remember all the shit he's done for me. So he was actually a groomsman for my wedding. And,
right.
Yeah, everyone was like, yo, why the hell
That's
is he a groomsman? I was like, yeah, I'm not going to explain it, but I still appreciate everything he's done. And yeah, I'm sure he knows that too. I still talk to him. Like, we went to EDC last year in Orlando. Yeah, we still chill and everything. Still plays like
awesome.
Like an asshole, though. I don't know if you ever seen him play jury.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was always a little, from what I remember, he was always kind of random. Like, he was scary to play because you just didn't understand what he was doing.
Yeah, and on top of that, he's a troll. He talks smack, so it makes it even more annoying.
Right.
So,
yeah. The player you just don't want to lose to avoid that. There's a lot of those in Florida at the time.
But yeah, he's helped me out a lot. And yeah, he would take me to all the tournaments. And yeah, he's helped me a lot outside the game and in the game too. Like, he would help me out with theories. And yeah, he's been very helpful.
That's awesome. Well, do you have anything else you want to cover while we're here? I think I got feedback that my episodes might be too long. We're like 2 hours into this.
Damn, that was 2 hours. Nah, I'm good, bro.
Flew by.
Yeah, no, that's a cool conversation. I really like this whole concept, though. I think it would be cool to have, like, I don't know, someone that, like, a Japanese dude, because none of the American players really know the Japanese people. So I would definitely tune in. Like, me as a viewer, I would definitely tune in to a Japanese person.
We'll see. It's something I've considered. Yeah, I've actually done that on the other end. I don't know if you know, Nemo did that for a while, and he had me participate in, like, late Street Fighter V era, right before Street Fighter 6. He did a podcast, and it was really cool, and I think it was productive, but it was difficult because you have to go through the interpreter both ways. So it's a lot of back and forth between that. So
yeah, it kind of gets lost in translation.
I think we understood each other pretty well. I think, right? I can't really verify, but it takes time.
There was that one podcast that interviewed Putin.
No, I don't know. Are you talking about
Lex Friedman, maybe?
Oh, Lex Friedman.
It was Lex Friedman or
that would make sense.
It was, yeah. He was on two different podcasts, and it was a lot. Was just him asking the question, just waiting, but he left it all in there. Yeah, it was a little weird. So yeah,
it's stiff. I think it would work well if you edited it down, but I'm hoping one day we can find a way to, like, cross that barrier, because it's weird how it's like the Western FGC and the Japanese FGC, like, two huge components of it, are completely isolated.
Yeah,
there's even more crossover. Yeah, there's more crossover even in, like, Latin America FGC, because, you know, a lot of the Latin American players, they speak English at least, and, you know, lazy Americans don't speak anything else. So there's still, like, some kind of,
like, when people want to insult Americans, they say, like, yo, it's something about us only knowing English. I'm like, damn, that's kind of true. Like, we only know English, and people learn English because we only know English. Right.
It speaks to them being self-centered and lazy. Yeah, I get it. The rest of the world was forced to learn English to communicate with us. So, well, you know, that's we're taking advantage of that.
I really appreciate you having me on. I don't really
no
do
problem.
This, so it's cool.
No, thanks for joining. I'm glad it all worked out. You know, like I said, I hit you up right before your Capcom Cup qualifying tournament. I'm glad it all worked out. You made it in. Otherwise, we might be having a very different conversation now.
Much more sad vibes.
I might have rescheduled if that was the case. All right,
man,
well,
good luck at your Japan trip. Sounds fun.
Thank you, man.
I should say. You're not really playing.
Appreciate it. All right. Take care.
All right, Brian. Take care, man.